Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, I, Madhura, am pleased to welcome you all to the MCCI DEF Space Tech 2024. In India, the 23rd of August was celebrated as our National Space Day, honoring our country's achievements in space exploration, particularly the success of the Chandrayaan mission. The event today envisions to bridge defense and space technologies and inclusive addresses by esteemed speakers, insightful technical sessions exploring various perspectives, and an exhibition of products. As we begin, I request Mr. Prashant Girbane, Director General MCCI, to please felicitate our esteemed guests. Lieutenant General Shekatkar. Lieutenant General Brar. Dr. Anupam Sharma. Mr. Jayant Umranikar. Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Girbane to please deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Madhura. Namaskar. Welcome to each and every one of you here. First of all, let me welcome General Brar. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Chennai, sir, to attend this meeting. A round of applause for General Brar, sir. Of course, there's General Shekatkar and Pune, any gathering in Pune or much of India, but doesn't need much introduction to General Shekatkar, sir. Thank you so much for coming here. Usually I say it in MCCI meetings, gatherings, we do not have any penalties for anybody wanting to clap as and when they want to clap. It's up to you. There are health benefits of it, but I'll leave it for the health professional to share those with you. Also, we would, of course, we're waiting for General Khandare, sir, and unfortunately, Pune University Circle is what it is. Some of us have experienced it, so unfortunately, he has to experience it. He'll join us sometime very soon. We also have Mr. Mahesh Fadke, who is the chairperson of our committee, which is focused on the defense, and of course, the significant role he has with the L&T, all of you are aware of it. And then we have Dr. Anupam Sharma ji, who has joined us from DRDO. Thank you so much for coming here. And thank you each and every one of you. Yesterday, possibly I got to see some of you, so I'll share some numbers with you. And a tad bit about the space tech, but I'm very keen to hear all of the dignitaries on the dais as you are. The chamber was established 90 years ago. 3,000, that's the number of companies that are members of this chamber. 9,335, that's the number of individuals who visited this chamber last year for one reason or another. There are 2,637, those are the number of companies that benefited, either for capability building or any other areas that we interacted with. There are 100 number of meetings with ministers and senior civil servants we had on this platform here on this floor. And that's just last year. There were 20 different diplomats from 20 different countries that came to this chamber just last year. There's another number, 4,500. That's the number of MSMEs we helped from 1st April this financial year till today. Few more numbers, I guess. 88 and 2. For 88 years, we are working in 2 districts. 90 and 18, we are 90th year, and we are now working in 18 different districts. Hopefully, by end of this year, we'll cover each and every district of Maharashtra. 5, that's what the rank of Pune is when we look at 800 plus districts. in terms of merchandise exports in India. 5th. 1, that's rank of Pune when we look at engineering goods exports among the 800 plus districts. And then another interesting one, Pune is the largest city in the country, there is a comma, that is not a state capital. Now, somebody very cheekily, because I say some of these things in Pune, reminded me, also number 1, I said, what? Pune is the largest city possibly in the world that doesn't have its own independent airport. But we'll leave that aside for another day and another meeting. Coming back to the topic of the day today, the opportunity, the policy, and the participants. I understand that currently the space stake is about $8.4 billion. It's expected to be 5x in less than 10 years. Anyone here from the industry or aspiring to be in the space tech, this is what we look at, isn't it? A sunrise industry. And how do we call it? An industry that has a CAGR, the cumulative average growth rate, more than the GDP or the industrial growth rate, is a sunrise industry. That's why the number for all of you, 5x happening in less than 10 years in space tech. Opportunity, currently it's about 2-3% share globally. We are expecting it to get to about 8% share by 2033. Still, there will be enough space for space tech, even in 2033. So there is a longevity of the opportunity for those who would enter this sector or those who are in this sector, right? And that's about the opportunity space, especially for friends and colleagues from the industry who have gathered here. For any sunrise sector, it's important that the opportunity is addressed by the supply side. Supply side, that's industry, that creates job, that boosts economy. But for all of that to happen, you need a platform that's called policy. And thankfully, we have a policy in 2023, the Indian Space Policy, and policy that is expected to catalyze, boost these interactions between the demand and supply side for this sector to grow. No wonder there are also other enabling policies. We have about 190 plus startups that are working in this space in one way or another way. Not to mention the big names like the L&T, the Tata Group, Godrej, Kalyani Group, and the many others who are involved in this space. When we look at the space tech, the imagery comes to mind is possibly the individual called Elon Musk these days, and one of those satellites, getting up in the sky. But also there is a whole lot of other elements to it. You'll get to hear from the experts, and you'll get to see some of those players in the exhibition area as well. And those including manufacturing of satellite components, ground systems, space-based services, whole lot of that. I think much of that would be discussed today. We're very grateful to the Southern Command here, especially with whom we have a long-standing association and whole lot of activities happening through the RTN. We're also very, very grateful to DRDO, who came forward, because without them, we wouldn't be able to imagine organizing such a conclave, such a conference, and getting all of you to interact with. Thankful to each and every one of you for coming here today, and really looking forward to listen to for all of you. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to my colleague Madhura.
Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Mr. Mahesh Phadke, Chairperson of MCCI's Defense Committee, to deliver the opening remarks.
General Chekatkar, General Brar, General Ramesh, Mr. Umranikar, Dr. Anupam Sharma, senior officers from the armed forces, dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning to all of you, and a warm welcome to this Pune DevSpace Tech 2024 on behalf of the Defense Committee of Maratha Chamber. The Defense Committee of Maratha Chamber was set up in 1999, and basically it serves as a platform for interactions between the armed forces, DRDO, DGQA, and industry. Basically with the objective of understanding our defense requirements and synergizing our strengths as well as the capabilities. The committee has been very active. I'll not get into details. Prashant Girbani has shared a lot of things. But we have recently published a complete new directory of all our members. We are in close touch with RTN. We work closely with RTN. And we also have the Brigadier S.B. Ghorpade Awards for MSMEs who are involved in defense. Some upcoming activities that we have are a proposed MOU with 9 BRD of Indian Air Force. This is in September 24. And we are also organizing the Pune DefTech along with the Pune Expo. This will be sometime in November. So all these basically serve as platforms for interaction between industry and what we call end users. And today DevSpace Tech 2024 is a very important event for us. So coming to DevSpace, the defense and space domains have no longer remained separate. Global space is an integral part of global dominance by developed countries. Even though there are multiple treaties which say that we should be using outer space for peace, space has become an important pillar of strength, people showing their prowess, and that way an integral part of defense. The global space economy encompasses all economic activities related to the space sector, including satellite communications, space exploration, and even space tourism. This sector has seen phenomenal growth. Prashant Girbani spoke about it over the past few decades, and we will see it growing even further. Some of the key components of this entire space, one is the satellite industry. Communication satellites, Earth observation satellites, navigation satellites, space exploration missions, which could be government missions or even some of them with international collaboration. Commercial space activities like I said, space tourism and space mining to some extent, and various projects related to space infrastructure, whether it be launch services or even space habitats. So this is broadly, I would say, the complete gamut of activities that are going on and will go on. We'll also see multiple lunar and Mars exploration missions, is what we understand, and even space-based solar power. This is something which we could be seeing going ahead. So basically, this is a very, I would say, dynamic and rapidly evolving kind of scenario that we are in. This is driven by technological innovation, international collaboration, and basically a growing recognition of the strategic and economic value of space. Coming to India, India has been making significant strides in this global space. As Prashant Girbani said, today we could be at about 2 or 3% of the market. But what is important is that it is growing. Basically, our entire focus is growing, and therefore this market will also grow. All the sectors that I mentioned, we are into most of them. Satellite launch services, ISRO, of course, all of us know, PSLV, GSLV, and now we even have the small satellite launching, which just happened in August. Satellite communication, Earth observation, space missions, Mangalyaan as well as the Chandrayans, and a lot of science and research development. So all this is very much happening in India. The sector has seen substantial investment both from the government as well as private sector. And what is important is it's not just large companies that all of us know. It is also the startups which today are very active. 10 years back, I understand there was only one startup in the space domain. Today we have close to 200 startups in the space domain. Something between 190 to 200 is the number of startups that we have. So this itself speaks about what kind of potential is there and what is it we could see going ahead. The new space policy has been in place now, and we also have the Space Startup Fund, basically, which is going to help these startups. I'll just share a little bit about Larsen & Toubro. I work for L&T for the last 35 years. L&T has made significant contributions to the Indian space sector through various divisions and whatever little expertise I might say we have. We have been into engineering and construction, space infrastructure, launch vehicle structures is what we have made. In manufacturing and technology, we have been producing satellite components as well as spacecraft subsystems. We have worked closely with ISRO. Various programs, we have worked with them. We have supported launch missions. And we have also invested substantial funds into R&D as well as manufacturing facilities for supporting this entire space domain. So looking ahead, basically we see that the space sector offers tremendous potential for growth. And I really look forward to very, very fruitful discussions during this conference and wish this conference all the very best. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for the overview. I would now like to briefly introduce our next speaker, Lieutenant General Dr. D.B. Shekatkar, Param Visishta Seva Medal, Ati Visishta Seva Medal, Visishta Seva Medal. Sir has served in the Indian Army for 4 decades. He has participated in the India-Pakistan Wars of 1965 and 1971. He has served at Army Headquarters, New Delhi as Deputy DG of Military Operations dealing with China and East Asia and as DG of Perspective Planning. He has co-authored 12 books on security, terrorism, internal security and intelligence. Sir, my pleasure to invite you to please address us.
Since we are sitting in Pune, and that too Dr. Prashant's domain, Namaskar, Suprabhat, and then good morning, in that order. Why I have given this order is because Delhi is known as the political capital of India. Mumbai, for very right reason, is known as the economical capital of India. Bangalore is known as the technical capital of India. And for some very good reasons, Pune is known as the intellectual capital of India, the academic capital of India, which is evident from the details given by both the speakers, starting here. And therefore, I must compliment you, sir. It is you, because we know each other for almost over 17 years now and working with this. Under his guidance, under his domain, we are reaching, and will continue to reach. When we talk of Atmanirbharta, which is the game today, my understanding is that there are national issues in Atmanirbharta, there are regional issues in Atmanirbharta, and there are global issues. And all three have connections. You cannot miss anybody. My particularly request to the young audience sitting there, because you are our future. You are our hope. We will depend on you. We even today depend on you. So therefore, you are a combination of everything. You have the combination of the national issues where you are working. You have the combination of regional issues around us. And you are looking forward to the global issues on that line. It is said all the time, people talk of export potentials. I had the honor, privilege to be working with Dr. Kalam when he was still with the DRDO. He was there. I used to meet him on every second Wednesday, 3 o'clock. And he used to call me by first name. He said, can I see a day in my life when what we are importing today, that time we were importing 70% imports in defense, and only 30% was the indigenous production. He said, can I see that date when we can change the ratio? And during his time, and now we are reaching there somewhere. It will take time. We should be proud of that. And for the credit goes to the organization like DRDO, the organization like the Chamber of Commerce, the industry, and right-thinking people. It is to be happening. Why I am saying that? Because based on whatever experience I have, in 1962 I was a young officer during war, and I know with what we fought the war. There was no improvement in 1965. It is too close to each other. I was a major. And then again in 71 war I fought. And I happened to be the in charge of the entire Northeast as the GOC FOCO, where we are taking on both China and some other countries I don't want to name. Technology is making inroad today. If you are superior by technology, you will be able to extend your reach into the territory of those who take liberty with you. And you will be able to hit them hard. And that is what is the aim of this seminar today and the entire efforts are being made. Make in India, the committee which I was the chairman, by default I became a chairman. They didn't find any other person for that time. Something was called a Shekhar committee. They recommended there, make in India, but make it for the world. Don't make it only for India. And secondly, there is a production complex which should be able to look after the production of the equipment, technology, warfare, and for the humankind, whatever you need on that line. Because if you are weak, come. If you are weak, nobody will respect you. They will hit you hard. And they will hit you hard where you cannot protect yourself. And that is what has happened to many of the countries in the world today. It will not happen to India because things are changing today. We had the fortune of great leaders in the armed forces who have done their best, to improve the things today. And it is for this reason that when the war is going on between Ukraine and Russia, for last 1 year, Russia has not been able to make an inroad, and Ukraine is continuing to do that. And the Prime Minister of this country, I'm not talking politics, I'm talking of India. The Prime Minister of India goes to Russia and Ukraine both, and then to other European countries. That is the influence India is commanding today. That is the influence India is commanding today. If you take the war of Israel and Hamas going on for almost now 1 year now, I've traveled there, I've seen the people, I know the people there. Neither the Hamas has won, nor the Israel has been able to destroy Hamas. And we had to learn from these events in Indian context. Because unfortunately, we are surrounded by not many countries who are very friendly to us. And we have to take that into account. My next submission for your consideration is, earlier during our time, they say sky is the limit. I would request your kind consideration. Today, space is the limit. Today, space is the limit. That is the fact of life, which Dr. Prashant tried to explain to us. So no more sky is the limit now. At any given time in the world, 7,000 aircrafts are flying, 7,000, any given time. Just imagine if one satellite goes out of order or disconnect, what will happen? Unthinkable. These are the complexities that are now developing across the world. And we don't know who will be the victim of this. And therefore, when we talk sky is the limit, to space is the limit, now surface is not the limit. The bottom of the sea to the space is the extent of our interest which lies in today. We are the only nation in the world who have an ocean with our name, Indian Ocean. No other country. There are not many countries, big countries, I don't want to name them, they don't have even a sea with them. But here we are fortunate. And look at our extent. From Indo-Pacific, this suddenly has been changed from Indian Ocean to Indo-Pacific region. Who changed it? The Americans have changed it. It is for their interest. So nations are coming, the world is coming, the technology is coming into our things. And it is because our influence across the world is growing day by day. It does not make us, should not make us complacent or arrogant. Because that is the beginning of the downfall of any nation, any individual, any organization, when you start thinking too much of yourself. We have to be part of this, and this is my request to our audience. You cannot beg peace from anybody. Peace has to be enforced. Having fought 3 wars, having been served in the war for a long number of years, having combated terrorism in Kashmir, in Punjab, in Northeast, and whatever the place, I learned a lot. You cannot beg peace. You have to enforce the peace. And if you have to enforce the peace, you must be powerful. And to be powerful, you cannot depend on anybody but on yourself. So the philosophy of imports must be done away with as early as possible. Only then we can say. Last 2-3 points I just would make for your consideration. Any weapon system, technology, which works successfully in India can work anywhere in the world. We are the only nation in the world who have Andaman Nicobar, the sea, to 18,000, 20,000 high mountains, where our troops are working, where our air force is working, our people are sitting there. The highest road in the world, the pass, is in Ladakh. The highest airport in the world is in Ladakh. DBO, I have been there, Daulat Beg Oldi, hardly any distance from China. And one of the most modern aircraft produced by Americans, our pilots have landed there. Americans never thought. In fact, they asked the Indian Air Force, how did you manage to land there? There lies the competence of the person who is behind the machine. So it is not the machine itself, but the people who are operating that machine is equally responsible. And that is what is happening in Pune, that is what is happening in Chennai, that is happening all over the Indian country. Another point is the highest form of the competence in the warfare is shown by India. We don't have any desire to go anywhere else as a conqueror, as a fighter, but we have been going to enforce peace. We prevented a nation which was overthrown, Maldives. Our people have flown. Our Air Force pilot flew there at midnight without using a map. He stays here in Pune. Air Commodore Babur, Air Commodore Babur. He was the one who was flying. And we saved that. It's a different thing that the president of that country is looking more towards China. That is his problem, not ours. Look at Sri Lanka. We saved that country. So we are not the conquerors. We are the saviors. And that is why our people are doing well in United Nations peacekeeping missions all over the world. Look at the countries where the Indian forces are operating. Unthinkable. And we go as peacekeeper, and I again don't want to name the nations. People hate those people when they come as part of the UN peacekeeping mission. Because first they look at your skin, are you black or white, and then they decide what is to be done. In Indians contingent, it doesn't happen like that. My last request to the young people, allow me to say so, it is not generally spoken in military parlance. है हमें अगर प्यार तो हरदम ये कहना चाहिए. प्यार not of the WhatsApp प्यार, no, that is not the point. It is a different प्यार. That totally a different प्यार. है हमें अगर प्यार तो हरदम ये कहना चाहिए, मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ये रहना चाहिए. India should remain. India should remain. And that is what the organizations and the people like them are doing. मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ये रहना चाहिए. General Khandare is dealing with that. शत्रु से कह दो जरा, सीमा में रहना सीख ले. The enemy must remain in the path. And today in the world, or particularly in India, the internal enemies are more dangerous than the external enemies. And they are spread all over the place. शत्रु से कह दो जरा, सीमा में रहना सीख ले, ये मेरा भारत अमर है, ये सत्य सहना सीख ले. और इसीलिए राष्ट्र की शक्ति को, what they are doing today is showing the force of India, the weapon system of India, the brain of India, the technological excellence of India, and also the capability of India to make in India. शत्रु से कह दो जरा, सीमा में रहना सीख ले, ये मेरा भारत अमर है, ये सत्य सहना सीख ले, और इसीलिए राष्ट्र की शक्ति को, यू विल सी द एग्जीबिशन डाउन फ्रॉम, राष्ट्र की शक्ति को बढ़कर दिखाना चाहिए। मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ही रहना चाहिए। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. We are honored to have amongst us General V.G. Khandare. Before we move on to the next session, I request MCCI DG Mr. Prashant Girbane to please welcome him. Thank you, sir. Now I take pleasure in briefly introducing our next speaker, Mr. Jayanta Umranikar, ex-DGP Maharashtra and ex-CP Pune and Nagpur. Sir joined the police force in 1973 and has worked in different capacities as Commissioner, Special Bureau Mumbai, Commissioner of Police Nagpur and Pune, as Additional DG of the Anti-Naxalite Operations and the Chief of State CID. He has expertise on varied subjects such as India-Pakistan relations, the nuclear weapons debate, cybercrime, terrorism, and police reforms. He was awarded the Police Medal for Meritorious Service in 1995 and the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service in 2002. Sir, we are honored to have you. Please address us.
General Shekatkar, General Khandare, General Brar, General Ramesh, all the other distinguished persons on the dais of the dais. I am the odd man out in this crowd. What does police have to do with space tech? So, I would like to say a few things from my perspective. It's always difficult to be a follow-up speaker after General Shekatkar, because he takes you to a, like you said, different space altogether from the present one. So what is a policeman doing here? See, the concept of national security has changed a lot. And most of the strategic thinkers, they talk about fighting a 2.5 front war. So two fronts are very obvious, I don't want to mention them, but that half front is very crucial. And that half front is the internal security. And this is where, like General Shekatkar pointed out, this is where the real challenge lies. Do not forget, whatever you may be doing, whatever innovations you might be doing, there are certain basic things that we need to pay attention to. One of them is the police reforms. The other is the reforms in the criminal justice system. The third is having basic infrastructure. You may be flying in space, but if you see the today's situation, if a Maratha ally wants to move their troops in a convoy to Pune railway station, which is just about 2 kilometers from their headquarters, it may take them 2 hours depending on the traffic. Today probably the situation is such that the border roads are better than Pune roads. And I mean, it's not a joke. Let me tell you something what happened when the Ukrainian attacked Kursk region. Russians could not move their forces because the Ukrainians spread a rumor using social media that everyone has been asked to evacuate the area. There was so much of traffic on the road that the Russians could not move their troops to the border to fight the Ukrainians. Here there is nothing else, just we and our vehicles. As a policeman, I would always advise everybody that you have to drive on the left side of the road. In Pune, you have to drive on whatever is left of the road. Now, this is a situation which basically emphasizes that whatever innovation you might do, the basics cannot be forgotten. coming to technology, I mean, we are one country which has always lagged behind. Now probably we are trying to catch up. When Babur came with guns, we took the elephants out. When Kasab came to Mumbai, Tukaram Mumbai had a lathi in his hand. So if this is going to be the disparity between what our enemies are using and what we are using, is going to be a very difficult situation to fight back. So what the chamber has organized is really, I would say, very topical kind of exhibition as well as seminar that we are going to have. My advice will be, of course, is basically defense related, but do not forget your poor cousin in shabby uniform. You have to look after that also. And whatever technology you evolve, please see to it that there is some application which could be used by the civil forces also. It will give many advantages, one of them being economy of scale. If you evolve a product which is good for, say, defense forces, modify it and see whether it can be used by the police also. You may not be aware, but the total strength of police forces in India, including paramilitary forces, exceeds the number of military forces in India. So, whatever innovation you are doing, please see to it that there is some application which could be used by the police also. I am not talking of very big things. Right now we are at a very rudimentary stage. How rudimentary? I can tell you, it was only after 26/11 when we had a massacre happening in Mumbai that we realized that we need bulletproof jackets. We had many meetings on this subject with the Home Minister and many others in attendance. Everyone had his own advice. Someone would say use Kevlar plates, do that, do this, 360 degrees protection, etc., etc. The file became so thick that finally I requested the then Home Minister, sir वो फाइल ही दे दो, कम से कम एक आदमी की जान बच जाएगी, उसको लगा के घुमा दो. So what I am talking of is bureaucratic delay is something that creates problem in any kind of innovation. The other example I would like to give is shortage of funds. Police reforms have been stalled since 1902. That was when Fraser Commission recommended that Indian police have to be reformed. They said that we are recruiting semi-literate brutes. We have to modify this system. They came up with a figure. In those days, 1902, it was 135 crores. The imperial bosses in London accepted the reforms and sanctioned 50 lakhs of rupees. This is what has been happening to the police for a very long time, and I am sure this was happening to the armed forces also. So, if you have to do something, there has to be some money put in. You just can't have, good words and good organization. In fact, we Indians individually we are very brilliant. Organizationally, we are very weak, and the main reason is this, that we do not realize that anything that you do has to have a sustainable revenue model. So whatever you are doing, please remember these few things. There should not be shortage of funding. There should be a revenue model which is sustainable. This was one part of policing. There's another part of policing which is intelligence gathering. Counterintelligence as well as active intelligence gathering. This is where again technology is required. Things have changed so much that the whole concept of intelligence has actually is undergoing a change. We can't have old style target cultivation, source running, having DLB and LLB. For those who don't know, there are dead letter boxes, and then there are live letter boxes, and then there are cutouts, and then there are brush contacts where you know, indulge in passing the documents and all that. All this is a bygone era now. To collect intelligence, you need the best of the technology. Why? Because today there are CCTV cameras everywhere. Face recognition is instantaneous. If you are moving, you will have a mobile in your pocket. So your place is also decided. The person who is coming to meet you, he also has a mobile. Even if you use a burner, you can't have a burner for every operation. So intelligence is changing. What we need is something very sophisticated. I would say even AI for data mining, it has to be used. If you want to decide on the sensitive spots in your city, in your society, you have to come up with something which give you data analysis of what is happening where. You have to decide on which areas are more vulnerable, which areas are more sensitive, and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is, the police is one part of the internal security no one can afford to forget. And so I'm very grateful that although the seminar was meant only for the defense space tech, I was invited here. I think there is some grudging acceptance that internal security is as important as the external one. So whatever you do, my young friends, please remember, do not forget the basics. Basic infrastructure is important. Basic policing is important. Having a good criminal justice system is also very important. The internal enemies are the ones who have always created problems historically. I do not want to go into the details of all that. That is where you have to keep a very, I would say, wary eye on the happenings. Whatever technology you develop, please see to it that there is some application which is useful for the policing of this country also. I won't take much time. General Khandari is here. I'm sure you're very eagerly awaiting his speech. So thanks a lot, and thanks again for the chambers to invite a policeman. It takes courage. so I'm very thankful that I've been invited here to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful. Before we move on to the next sessions, we need to have a little change in seating arrangement since there are two presentations. So I request some of the dignitaries to please take the front three seats. The presentation would also be on the front screen. Thank you so much.
Just give it a second. So push it tiny bit on the left so that you are able to sit properly. No, that's good. That's you.
Thank you, sir. Now I take pleasure in introducing our next speaker, Dr. Anupam Sharma, Scientist H, Director DSP, DRDO. Dr. Sharma joined DRDO in 1990. For the last 33 years, he has been extensively working in the field of electronic warfare and space operations. He has played a pivotal role in conceptualization, visualization, and realization of complex electronic warfare systems by synergizing the effort of teams of experts from diverse disciplines such as antenna, microwave, digital electronics, mechanical, and software. Dr. Sharma has published several papers in many international conferences and delivered talks at various seminars, workshops, and symposiums. He is a recipient of DRDO Scientist of the Year Award in 2018. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, madam. Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. I'm supposed to talk about Antrik Shakti, and as Madam brought out that 33 years I've been working with the services, so my language is more going to be towards the services. From DRDO, I am not supposed to talk what DRDO is doing, but I can always cover what a developed country should do as far as the space is concerned. I'm not going to authenticate what we are doing again and again, I'm just telling you. So let me start. A lot of young people are there that when we talk about space, what is more important about space? The satellite moves very quickly. Suppose if a satellite is there in a LEO orbit, it can go with 7.8 kilometer per second. So once it moves, you don't require to put asset on ground. You can collect the intelligence from the space very fast. Timing is everything because the satellite is moving very quickly. It requires a good maneuverability. It requires the processing should be very fast so that when it is moving on the fly, it can collect the data. Space is big. 3 satellites can collect intelligence around the world. Satellite moves more predictably. Now, see, this is causing a problem because you find a satellite today and after 10 hours you can predict where it is going to be. And though it is good that we know predictability, that is where the difference comes between a military SSA and a civil space situation awareness. A civilian will know that, okay, satellite just now I monitor from a ground-based radar and after 10 hours it is going to be here. But in military, you have to continuously monitor the spacecraft where it is going because satellites can also maneuver. We require space situation awareness from the space to know the activities in the space, because I need not to refer to some of the YouTube videos and all. The maneuvering of the satellite happens and you can't predict where the satellite is going to be, especially the military satellites. But as far the intelligence collection is concerned, in some of the payloads, if you launch 30-degree field of view, you can collect in 10 minutes of operation, you can cover the intelligence from 2000 kilometer to 4000 kilometer. So the space needs to be optimized. Very important that when we look at the satellite applications, as sir brought out, that we should also cover about the civilian side. Space does not recognize whether it is civil or military. The only thing is the data decimation has to take place. And that is what I have been always trying, that unless we use space effectively for the communication, then space utilization is not going to be proper. If a satellite is about US, it collects some data, and if I am not able to transmit to India and I wait 8 hours to come back, unless I have got a satellite based relay, then it is not going to be effective for the military. Military has got millions of assets on the ground. A general wants to know the health of those assets to find war. So IoT, communication, linking with the satellite, unless we have got a communication, we cannot meet the country's requirement. Very, very important. Gone are the days when satellite is launched as a single satellite. The time has come when a formation of flying of the satellite which goes. Constellations are disjoint satellites. They require to communicate data on the ground, but when I talk about formation, the satellite to satellite communication is the key. And I want to tell you that, not mentioning anything, India will have a first formation based flying next year. Now, something very important, resources needs to be optimized. A satellite should be able to track a submarine, a satellite should be able to track a ship, a satellite should be able to track an aircraft, a satellite should be able to track a missile. I am adding something more. A satellite should be able to track another satellite. Now, if you calculate this total, we have been doing this calculation, if the developed country has to do, then you find that so many assets are required. But what is required to be done? Can we have a hybrid satellite which can address all the platform tracking capability? And that is what the services they look after. I'm talking about the dual use mission when we talk about a hyperspectral payload launched to see what is the vegetation on the ground. It can also be used to see what are the materials on ground useful for the military use. When we talk a synthetic aperture radar, country is proud that we are having X-band radar. And I want to tell you that why X-band radar could be indigenized, because unfurlable antenna of X-band was easier. I want to tell you, without going into the specific, along with the Indian industry, we developed the KU band synthetic aperture radar antenna, realized and accepted, and next year will be able to launch. So what is required to be done is just look at where are the technology gaps, sit down with the startups, sit down with the industry and address those gaps. And I have seen that, as sir brought out, intellectual capital. Now, my mother was a psychologist and we always used to debate what is the difference between an intelligence and intellect. In fact, if intelligence putting into a appropriate use becomes intellect. And that is what is required, that we know what the world is doing, what is the technology required, but unless an action is taken in timely manner to realize it in the form of a system, it's not going to be of any use. When we look at the fully fledged military use, I said space situation, military space situation awareness required. Gone are the days when we used to talk a radar and telescope in India to be used to track a satellite, because we think that we'll be able to predict. We require 360 degree coverage of each spacecraft to protect our aircraft, to protect the strategy of the adversary, and that requires space situation awareness from space. We used to talk C2, and the time has come when the space has to provide support for command, control, communication, intelligence, surveillance, tracking, acquisition and reconnaissance from the space. And that is where, when we talk about the intelligence gathering, I still remember the best thing to fight war is to know thyself, is to know the adversary capability. So if we don't have elite payloads which can give the location of the radars, which can give their parameters, if we do not know how the adversary is coordinating, you can't fly aircraft about, because I don't think that tomorrow war is going to be only with our neighbors. Probably we have to go somewhere. So we require command, we require facent, we require to monitor the radiation levels entire Earth, and that is where the MESINT comes into picture. Gone are the days when we launch one satellite, thousands of satellites are being launched. Space traffic management is going to be a big issue. And an operator, military operator sitting on the ground cannot judge which satellites are coming closer to me, what is to be done. All modeling has to be done. That's why the virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality is going to be a big challenge. Today we talk about launching of satellites from one location. It's not useful to the military. We should be able to launch satellite from any location. Not only this, can we have satellites in the space, a mother satellite having number of satellites, and if my asset gets killed, can I launch it on demand from the space itself? Digital twin for maintaining the military assets, knowing their health when the war breaks out, is going to be very important terminology. And then when we talk about countermeasures, which we don't talk, but there is a theory that when we strike, there are two types of methods. One is kinetic, non-kinetic. Non-nuclear is projectile. India has already done ASAT, but next ASAT is not going to be allowed. Any developed country require a co-orbital warfare, where a satellite can approach to another satellite, grab it, deorbit, and burn itself in the atmosphere, because all of us, we are going to be bounded by the treaties. Destructive by high power microwave, laser from ground, space to space. Very useful that when you use a laser on the ground, because atmosphere plays a very important role, it attenuates, and then the laser does not reach in the space. But very small power laser can damage another satellite if it is put in the space. Particle beam, which can do much more damage than a laser, is going to be the order of the day. Gone are the days when we used to have maps to navigate. But tomorrow, if you have to navigate from a technology from the space, the jamming and the spoofing of the asset is going to create a problem. So a soldier, if it has to fight the war, the basic essential things which I learned from my gurus from military, the first is the communication, another the radar, another the GPS. Very, very important thing apart from the weapon system. And if those things can be made not functional or malfunctional, most of the time we are going to lose the war, and that space is the best. Very important actually, space as a service. See, never we thought things are changing. Gone are the days when the father gets up in the morning and he waits for the newspaper to come. Very old a person of 90 years age, he just goes, sees the newspaper whenever he gets up. But they are changing with the technology. It was a surprise to all of us when Ukraine, having no satellite, used the satellite technology. We must think that space as a service to be utilized. Of course, if we are to beat with other countries, look at us. We have got 61 satellites, military satellites, few satellites, 7 to 8 satellites, but US has got 239 satellites. And if we have to compete, say, with US, you require around 650 industries to work on it. So we are dependent, as far the military is concerned, without going what we are doing. There is a Cartosat, which gives the panchromatic image. We have got GSAT, we have got RISAT, which gives synthetic aperture radar. And I want to tell you that synthetic aperture radar has to work in multiple bands. So the technology is coming that, because if you look at a synthetic aperture radar, it's like a bat in the space, where even if it's a cloudy weather, bad weather is there, still you can image the area. But if you say there is a P band SAR, there is a KU band SAR, there is a X band SAR, each one has got its own significance as far as the military use is concerned. The word is going for a multi-band SAR. You look at the area with different SAR bands so that to characterize the area. IRNS, of course, is being done for the services in our region, but it has to be extended for fighting a war in the other regions also. This is my favorite slide, and that is what I tell the students, that earlier days when we were born, when our forefathers were born, the richest person is a Kisan. Then came the industry age, then came Bill Gates age, and he said that if I have got a knowledge, I can do. But today, things are different. Networking. A person securing just 60% of the marks, if he collaborates, network, he can do miracles. Now the military systems also has to go the same type of transition. We should not let the bulkier system. We require small sensors, network with each other through space to give the empowerment to the military. And that is what I was telling, that let us think in terms of the future battle network, where from any corner of the world we should keep a target that make information available from each sensor to each shooter, then only will be able to fight an effective war, and that is going to be the military communication of the future. Gone are the days when we fight war just across the border. Tomorrow, as sir brought out about police, that the best warfare is going to be not by weapons, but by domination and disruption of information infrastructure. And that is what the country needs to prepare. I can tell you, look at a satellite, which is a very valuable asset. But if you do some kind of a spoofing on the ground, you can make satellite has got a thermal control system. It sends its data to the ground. Everything is working fine, 0 to 40, and somebody makes it is 120. Immediately commanding goes that switch off the supply. Satellite has got a fuel system. It sends this much fuel is left out. A commanding has to go, okay, continue your maneuver. But if I say that there is no fuel, what you are going to do is spoofing, jamming. That is what the cyber is going to play a bigger role in this. So how to sustain a space? You require bodyguard satellites. You require satellites to protect itself from the high power laser, and you require a smart satellite to maneuver. We talk LEO 750 kilometer and all because less vibration, but you require hydrogen to maintain it. But if we keep a satellite at 150 kilometer, 200 kilometer, the available hydrogen and nitrogen can be used as a fuel. To sustain in the space, you require a lot of fuel. So a lot of research is going on in the fuel, but we are always telling that keep a satellite at 150 kilometer, use the available hydrogen, nitrogen, ionize it, sustain in the space, and when you want, with that hydrogen available, you just change the orbit. We require multiple satellites to be bundled together in the space so that they can be launched into this. This is what the new thinking has come from space 1.0 to space 4.0. Space 1.0 we talk when we see the space from a telescope, space 2.0 when we say that we can land into the moon. Then we came to launching some satellites, and then everything was centralized by the government. Government sees there's central some agencies. Today everything has become decentralized, and we are working from DRDO to address this need of the country. Gone are the days when the innovation used to come from the military technologies to the civilian world. Now we have to see that 6G used by the commercial world, how it can be exploited better by the services, also the space. I have got some 2050 couple of technologies where advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing require those who are working in the industry is going to be used for space. Artificial intelligence where a spacecraft should be able to do the onboard processing on ground before sending it to the ground because bandwidth is going to be limited. Control and monitoring the satellite system by AI is going to change the world. Autonomy and robotics in the space is a big thing. Biotechnology, blockchain, which is from the commercial world can be adopted for the military systems. Communication, I already completed. Computing, edge computing is going to change. Quantum computing is another thing where the encryption can be broken. Digital reality technology like VR and all, I already told that space traffic management operator will not be able to do. Energy, very important thing that if you want to sustain a space, you require improved energy generation. Lot of research is going on, storage and its transmission. Lot of research in materials, nanotechnologies, propulsion system. In fact, you might have heard that news that we along with the startup, a green propulsion system was launched, 30% more efficiency. So the satellite can remain there for a long time. Quantum technology, quantum radars, sensors, and space as a service is going to be the next order of the world. Now just if you go down and you go up, these are the technologies in propulsion systems, for in space, launch systems, space power and energy storage, robotics, communication, nanotechnology. These are the to be developed from the scratch actually. So top down is changing, bottom up approach we need to address, and then materials, structures. So much of things we have highlighted, ground launch systems, thermal management systems, a lot of research is required. We cannot do it. It has to be done with a combination of startups, academia, and also the big industries. If you have to address the development of any technology, for example, if you have to develop a neuromorphic sensor is presently developed by only one country. And let me tell you what is the use of that neuromorphic sensor. If you don't have a neuromorphic sensor in the spacecraft, you cannot track a hypersonic missile. Now, we must think why only one country in the world is doing. We are able to do the edge computing backside. We can do AI, but the front end is still you'll be dependent. So there are 50 technology areas we have identified, and we have started working with the startup and the industry to address this basic need of any developed country. And we have mapped these technologies onto various applications for the military. And we are getting good support from the military for these things. I will not be able to cover everything, but there are 50 technologies we have identified, and I am strongly advocating, gone are the days when military technology. We are projecting there is a possibility of having a civil military fusion. And what is required, in case it is required, there are some rules to be followed, but let me tell you, I was surprised when I could get that when Israelis, they came and they were just giving the presentation that what was happening in Gaza, every half an hour they were having the image. Now you look at it, having the intelligence with them, but they could not protect. Sir, this was your point, that they never imagined that this type of, though they have got the intelligence, that every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, they know when the border was broken, how the vehicles have moved in, but they never predicted that even they can enter. So they were watching a picture, but they could not do anything. That is where the intelligent decimation is going to be very important. Today, I am very convinced, if we work out a paper or a joint kind of something we can debate, the tactical surveillance, reconnaissance and tracking, satellite communication, space situation awareness, cyber operations. I think somebody will really hit me bad if I say that the command and control, we can put these civilians into loop by having a detailed discussion, by incorporating the security modules in it. Gone are the days when I require, during war, only one type of communication. We require multi-mode communication. If one fails, another you should be able to do. PNT is going to be there. So this is what from 1990 to 2030, everything is going to change. There is going to be overlapping between national security, civil, and also commercial. And that is where the country is moving, that we are moving together to address the security requirements of the country. And very important that ISRO is launching so much of satellites. Commercial vessel is launching so much. What is going to be military satellite? The military satellite should have platform detection capability. It should have intelligence gathering capability. It requires satellite to satellite connectivity so that the data, when it gets, it should be able to pass it. It should have stealth capability with plasma so that you cannot track it from the ground. It requires edge computing. It should be able to go grab a satellite, it should have the capability to burn in the atmosphere. It should be able to predict the disasters, and of course, very important, precise maneuverability and precise mapping of the terrain capability. That is what a typical military satellite means. And if you see future critical technology roadmap, which require for any developed country, requires launch spacecraft, space operations, communications with the help of the enabling technologies. And this is what the fact which everybody was talking today. India occupies just 2% of the global market value, and 9% we can do it by 2030. And yes, as brought out rightly, that in 2012, 2012 we were having one startup. Today we have got 190 plus a startup with a private investment of 124.7 million US dollars. In the year, the private sector has invested around 12.5 billion in the space company goal. But something very important, that likely investment percentage in the next 5 years. I'm not talking the startup or the country just to work for India, but this is something which is done. 30% we are going in the world we are going to spend on national security. So a lot of business, lot of opportunities, lot of technologies needs to be developed. So we need to do focus research in future space technology. Develop first of its kind system, expanding the boundaries of innovation. And I want to tell you a very simple thing. You might have seen the big antennas which download the data. When we have gone, we said the tri-band antenna was imported. So why it cannot be indigenized? Today, we have got the first tri-band antenna. We need not to import. Simple things which we were importing just can be thrown away, and we can meet the service requirement. And we should think that make the country leader in the space for defense. So this is what I wanted to give you a picture. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful and informative. Allow me to now introduce our next speaker, Lieutenant General K.S. Brar, Ati Vishishta Seva Medal, General Officer Commanding Dakshin Bharat Area, Chennai. General Brar's career spreads across varied operational areas and sectors, including Northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, deserts and plains. His command appointments include a command of a brigade in Jammu and Kashmir in CI Ops, a sector in UN mission in South Sudan, and an infantry division in the Western sector. Sir, we are very honored to host you. Over to you.
Vanakkam, Namaskaram, since I'm coming from Chennai, and sir started the trend, Supravat and Jai Hind. On the dais, General Khandare sir, Dr. Sharma, Mr. Umrenika, General Shiketkar sir, General Pannu, General Ramesh, Mr. Bhartwaj, Mr. Fatke. It's an honor to be speaking here among such distinguished audience, and I thank the Pune Tech and MCCI for calling me here. So I've got a topic on tech absorption and industry collaboration. So these two words actually define what defense forces require. Because if you remove technology and electronics from the defense, so actually what you're left with is a pistol. Even a rifle has technology, it has a night sight, it has in fact an injected graticule, and so no weapon, no equipment, no nothing of armed forces is without technology. So we need technology. And second is industry collaboration. Industry means it includes everybody. It includes DRDO, includes the big industries, include the MSMEs, it includes the startups, it includes the research organizations, it includes the academia, IITs, everybody. So I'll in next 15 minutes try and put everything together and give you a picture of how things work from my side or our side as user. This slide is just to show, which has been shown earlier, that as far as the government policies are concerned, the money is there, the vision is there. That is by 2028, 3 lakh crore should be the defense production. The exports have to be 16,000. This was announced by the Honorable RM. And defense export have to be 50,000 crores. And there are a lot of negative import lists by which you are not importing. And there are 2 defense corridors. And I've highlighted Tamil Nadu being in my area of responsibility. But the main thing which is this point, converting it into orders, and this is what I think the industry or everybody wants, ki order kab milega, because otherwise nothing will work. This is a slide to show, though you may have generally known, but to the industry audience, some of the youngsters, I've drawn these 3 verticals to explain broadly how the procurement system works in Army and in Navy Air Force also. The appointment names may be different. So there's a capital procurement for new acquisitions and responsibility deputy chief CDS and basically the line directorates. And ADB, we have, ADB is the one point contact which coordinates everything, but the line directors are the one which produce. And then you have manual, which is defense acquisition procedure. And then you have a revenue, current equipment, which is for maintenance and sustenance, which is the responsibility MGS. And again with the line directors mean RT, armor, infantry, engineers and all that. And then the third vertical has, because the technology had to be injected, now the government had taken a number of steps to include technology as a third vertical. That is IDEX, TDF, ATF, and the persons who are responsible is also listed. But why I have drawn these 3 verticals is to explain. We just had the, the structure how which the space sector has come up. This are these 2 things we were designed to procure. We were not designed for Make in India. You see, if you see capital, it is called procurement. So, that's why we have always been importing. Whereas ISRO was not given anything in the beginning, so they designed their structures for Make in India. So we are now converting this procurement system into a Make in India system. So therefore, all these 3 are verticals, and that's why the technology is the third vertical which is coming. So it is up to the user who understands this and how to put it together. So maybe we have started late, but we are moving fast, and hopefully, so that was my main point and on this slide. So therefore, again, I have tried to put the 2 verticals, that the procurement system, as for capital revenue, you have the procedure of RFI, RFP, and the process is there. And similarly, the tech projects of IDEX, this thing, you have the problem statements, application processes. But there are challenges which I think these are your challenges, these are our challenges also. Firstly, the first is the Make in India. Now in the Make in India, I mean, you may say 50% indigenous content, but the 50% is labor and services, whereas the critical technology is not there. So therefore, this challenge has to be obviated by various, they are measures, and we have to make sure there's genuine Make in India. And of course, there has to be the people who are handling, they have to be decisive and take authority and timeline and assurance of orders. No industry functions, that is, I think, a crib all across. If the things don't move fast, then definitely. Now, even in the technology products, some of these are products, but most of the technologies, as was mentioned by Sir, that networking. Now, networking is not a product. So, how do we develop systems? If there is a product, then that is all right, but how do we develop systems? And as far as startups who have to be encouraged, they have to be given the funding and they have to be given the guidance. So this is a part which the user has to do. And of course, timeline, and like there was some discussion yesterday that if the IDEX completes a project, where is the assurance of further orders? So, all these challenges have to be known to the user so that, how we make best so to help you, because the authority lies with the people in decision making to give you orders. Now here, I've been talking of user, so let me come to the user. Now, whenever there is a project, whether it is a line director or this thing, he has to deal with multiple agencies which are listed in that Venn diagram for whether trials or initial this thing or QRs and other things. The user has to give the operational or qualitative requirements. Now, if it is a commercial product, any factory gets the feedback from the market. He gets the feedback from the customer. He knows what the product he has to design. He knows what are the orders. You have consultancy like McKinsey and all the Deloitte and all these people who will tell you where the market is going. But what about the defense industry? There's no kind of a consultancy. There's no kind of a prediction. As it is, what kind of a QR is required is not known. So, this becomes a very, very kind of a complex challenge. So the user has to be having the qualities which I said. He should be able to give you correct QRs. He should be able to give you QRs which are practical and implementable. It caters for upgradation. And in the process, he should be part of the process where he takes decision making, guidance, mentoring, and that all which goes on with it. So therefore, the technology absorption starts with actually the current emerging security challenges, strategic concepts, technological developments, and then you define that capability, and then you develop projects and systems. Now the first, these 3 or 4 parts are basically what should be there with the defense headquarters, and the project systems are with the industry, whether it is DRDO and other people. But this cannot be firstly a one-way street. It has to be a continuous and a collaborative approach if we have to do Make in India. And the strategic concepts, challenges, and all this has to be thought of. Again, referring to the lecture just taken, for example, in high altitude, you say drones will do ISR, which is happening in Ukraine. But in high altitude, in the northern sector, these drones don't fly. And because of weather conditions, you can't get any ISR. So you have to have space-based assets. So this is a thought which has to be kind of generated when you see what are your strategical concepts. The US does not have a land issue problem. They are not defending any land. So their idea is to destroy. They will build you weapons which destroys. Whereas in our case, we are defending territory both on the northern and the western side. So therefore, our concepts have to have ground and combat forces, which is infantry and armor and all, because, drones and any technology doesn't capture land. That has to be done physically, which is basically mechanized infantry and armor wherever it can be employed. So therefore, all this gets structured when you come to what kind of a strategical concepts you want and what kind of a thing you want. Therefore, this part is very, very important, that it has to be a reverse loop, that it cannot be that order de diya and somebody will make you something, because they have to be guided. I explained to you in this thing. So I thought that whatever I have spoken, let me give you some live examples of some of the things one did as in my previous tenure. There was a stealth project in which there were electronics. A vendor came with some paint and some other things. So I said this stealth project of electronics is of no use, because firstly it's so costly, and then it's not practical in war. One shell and everything will be gone. So I changed the name of the project from that to IMCS. In fact, this is the first project of IDEX which has been was contracted about 2 years back. So this is what they did, and I mentored it for almost a year. And the product which they made out was a tank which is with fabrics and all. You can see a tank with this is only at 800 meters. The tank with IMCS gets, you can hardly recognize it. On the right side is where the white you see is the heat signature. So if the heat signature of a IMCS almost gets mitigated. So if the heat signature is not there, the missile will also not hit. So what I'm trying to say is, you don't sometimes require, rocket science. This project was the first contract, as I mentioned. And this thing I keep highlighting at various places. The Zoraba project, the QRN specs were made by me because of and if you see the specs, they are practical and you cannot find it anywhere on the internet. I'll just give you one spec which I was questioned as Armored Corps, why a tank should be 25 tons. Now 25 tons, I got a lot of flack for it, but I stood by it. 25-ton tank means it can be airlifted from high altitude region Ladakh. A heavier tank cannot be. Secondly, 25 tons replaces your Archimedes principle, it can be made amphibious. Third is that the power to weight ratio of this tank is higher than the Chinese tank, because obviously the engine size is limited. Fourth is there is something called a nominal ground pressure. The nominal ground pressure of this tank, we have to try it out, would be less, so it can operate also in run. And you know, these are the advantages of us. So there were 110 QRs which one made over 1 month, which are totally practical, and I knew it could be done. So IP and other things, and you have heard the news, such project in the best of the countries takes about 7 to 8 years. So if we want, we can do it. So prototype is ready in 2.5 years, which the chairman. So what I'm trying to say, this was during the design phase that we were seeing all the things. This is the various characteristics which you have to model. So I was involved with DRDO, L&T, in fact the research team we have, Mr. Fatke, the Powai team was with me, Mr. Bopalkar and all those people. So the thing is out. Swarm drones, again, you know, this is a concept which one initiated before the Ukraine war. And one pushed for it, please take it, that this is a very important thing, drones and things will be required. This is 21 I'm talking. So it was, and contract was signed, and this project, there were 2 companies which were not meeting up to the mark, but they were taken and they have delivered. Now, after that, those companies also doing well, and you know, the drone thing has come up. I'm just giving you some examples. Then there's another project called ULPGM, which again a DRDO and all others. So we were the lead directorate. It's again an excellent thing. Contract signed. Arjun missile firing, again. So there are a number of things which can be done. But I'll come to this slide, which is a slightly busy slide. You see, warfare and defense capability. I'll highlight the 5 black points. 70% of equipment is old. And if you see the Ukraine war, they are taking out the older guns and tanks and all. It is not about quality is not about quantity also. They are asking for ammunition from other countries. Even Pakistan has started supplying to both sides. So the current system has to be maintained. So there is a lot of scope. It is, if you just go into high tech, we may be going wrong. So our current system has to be sustained, upgraded. That is the second point. Then we have to look at future platforms. Then we have to look at niche technologies. Some of the projects which I dealt with have written in blue. And then comes the critical technology which has been mentioned by previous speakers. And net centricity, and future is net centric warfare. I'll give you a very simple example. Your mobile phone, if it is out of the net, it is of no use. When it comes on the net, then you can do your payments and flight booking. Same is the case with weapon systems. If we don't get net centric, you may have the best artillery gun, you may have the best this thing. The force multiplier effect of net centricity is different. So this thought has to be understood, and it is not as simple as internet. We have to firstly have our procedures and understanding at the command structure because after all, when you theaterize things, then what is it? It is theaterization. You don't have to organizationally theaterize, you have to organizationally and functionally theaterize also. Because if you make structures, it may be of no use. So functionally theaterization between, you are in desert, there you see an enemy, you tell your Air Force to strike. Or you are somewhere else, so you can only happen when you are net centralized. So all this can be done. So in my charter, with whatever little previous experience, one has tried to create a ecosystem in which one has related with this complete cycle of old equipment, new equipment, future, ISRO and T and Defense Corridor people. And one is speaking to all of them, and this event also is something like building up the ecosystem also. So these are just photographs. The ISRO has those technologies which we are looking for in the armed forces. In fact, he said we have it. Like gyros, we are looking for ring laser gyro, he said we have it. So some of the technology which have been listed can be used. And this has to be understood by the armed forces that if you relate with ISRO, and since one is in Chennai, this Agnikul Cosmos, I was there for the launch. Now, all the things which have been said can be done. Their startups are very good. Only thing, you have to support them. Situational awareness, whether launch on demand, deploy on demand, everything can be done. We have to just support them. And this, they are printing 3D rockets, and you can have a constellation of satellites, like Elon Musk. This companies can easily do it, and they have to be put. So therefore, my various interaction, I'm just giving you some pictures. The TNFS corridor, southern India, which includes Pune to some, if you call it south, is the place where everything is. So this is our, Silicon Valley, or if you can call it. So the DRDO labs are here, the tank factories, BMP factories in Hyderabad, Chennai. So this is the whole ecosystem which has to get together to synergize itself. And I am doing this without any resources in enhancement of my charter. So one has done few of the things which I say mentoring them and all that, and facilitating their trials and whatever else one can do. There is a lot of talent in IST. We're talking of space. There are students in which are doing degree, which I think I've recommended, sir, that they can come to armed forces if we can take them through SSB, because space is the next domain. So we have to have learners there. And to conclude, Atmanirbharta, you can't fight a war. Like somebody was saying that even drones, if drones are being used for agriculture, can be from China. But how long does it take for the Chinese to spoof it and do it that if it is spraying pesticides 100 ml, it will spray 500 and your crops will get destroyed. So, even in civil use, nothing can be from an adversary or from a foreign country if we can help it. So, Atmanirbharta is the thing. Government policies have been done. So, it has been mentioned earlier also, we need people who can implement them. So, implementers are required. Still, I have because one is seeing people, whatever, we are still not tapping the full potential which is available in India. And we have to be accountability, and ecosystem has to be there. So, thank you so much, and Jai.
Thank you, sir, for taking us through the topic tech absorption and industry collaboration. I am now honored to introduce today's chief guest, Lieutenant General V.G. Khandare, Param Vishishta Seva Medal, Ati Vishishta Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Principal Advisor, Ministry of Defense. General Khandare retired from the Army in 2018 after serving actively for over 4 decades. He worked as the military advisor at the Prime Minister's Office National Security Council Secretariat from 2018 till 2021. He was also the Director General of the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Deputy Chief of the Integrated Defense Staff for Intelligence from November 2015 until January 2018. He is currently the Principal Advisor in the Ministry of Defense and providing strategic insights and advice on the matters relevant to defense strategy. Sir, we request you to please address us. Thank you.
Jai Hind. This is not the response we want. Jai Hind. I am actually honored to be in the presence of such senior officers like General Shekatkar. He in fact has been our role model. He has taught us a few things which we have followed blindly without questioning. And one of the things which he has told us, and we silently just absorbed it, is to work beyond the charter. Many of the people who are in uniform, this is an advice that I want to give. Quite a few officers, when I interact, they say, sir, this is my charter. I said, who made it? We inherited it. We did not draft it. And every few months, technology changes, dangers change. Your charter has to be dynamic. Your charters have to change based on what you think you can do. And that's what General Shekatkar taught us. The other thing which I want to also convey is The previous speakers have spoken a lot. I was possibly unlucky not to have heard the first few, and I came in between when Jan Shekatkar was speaking. And the delays obviously were due to the Pune roads and Pune traffic, and we are talking of space. And what Jayant Umranikar said is exactly what was going in my mind. Pune is a high-tech city, so to say. Brilliant minds are here. We are finding solutions for the West. What about our solutions? And the policeman who's standing there is using his mind to control traffic, divert traffic, regulate traffic. What can be done from space? It can be done here on that tab, which can be given to the policeman. So here is a question of technology existing, human capital on the road, but that gap of application of technology missing. And that is the bridge that needs to be done. And I don't think this solution you can copy and paste here. That has to come from your own intellectual capability. And India is known to be a society which is knowledge-based, knowledge-driven. We were not a civilization which worked on downloading, copy, paste. We were always, a lot of people, a civilization which used to think, be able to see a problem and find a solution. So today I think our intellectual capability has got restricted to finding a problem, but then it gets diverted to complaining and stop. We are not able to find a solution, which is a sad part. But I am particularly happy that General Brar and other serving officers are here, and particularly so that General Brar spoke. And it takes a lot of burden off my shoulders. I'll tell you the reason why. When people like me or General Pannu speak, not General Shekatkar, but people like me or General Pannu speak, people say, ये retire होने के बाद इनको इतनी अकल कहाँ से आ गई? So there, I think General Brar has done a lot for us, that he has been in uniform and he has spoken. Now, a few issues which I would like to connect with what Dr. Anupam mentioned, and Anupam is one of our main assets of the Ministry of Defence. He's the main person who handled the research part in the space domain. So when in 2018, the government went in for creation of 3 highly specialized agencies, and that too came out of the Shekatkar committee, which Jan Shekatkar had worked on. So in that, the Defence Cyber Agency, Defence Space Agency, and the Armed Forces Special Operation Division. So there, the first part came that even if we have our Defence Space Agency separately, who's going to work on the research part? Who's going to integrate with the civil domain? And you heard him. He summed it up beautifully. And I think, Anupam, you're the second DG DSA. So he's just the second one. The first one was another dynamic person, Dr. Shastri. So we are still in that journey from 2018. Actually, 2018 is when the letter got sanctioned by the CCS, and 2019 actually we completed our manning, and since then in between COVID came, and we are still in a manner of struggling, trying to get our act right. So many of us who are enamored by what DARPA should be doing, give us time. I think we will still prove that we are up to the mark. A lot of changes have come in the armed forces, where Southern Command in particular has been made the leading agency for technology discovery, technology absorption. So the next 2 years are for our technology absorption, and Southern Command is leading in a very big way. And the area headquarter in Chennai, which General Brar heads, has done a lot. Pune is also one place where you have the regional technology node. Now these organizations were not there in the initial part. The charter was different of the sub-area. The charter of the command headquarter was different. But we needed somebody to bridge the gap between the civil and the military domain, which is called the civil-military integration, civil-military fusion, whatever you want to call it. But the gap between what a designer or a scientist or an academician is doing and what the user wants to be done. So it was something like the academy was teaching something else, the industry was designing something else, the scientist was visualizing something else, and by the time it came to us for trials, it failed. Obviously, it would fail. So that is the point where cross-pollination is deeply required in every possible domain of technology. And we have started doing quite a few things. People talk of brain drain. I view it slightly differently. I view it in a manner that this should be seen as a return on investment. Your people who did well at IITs or regional engineering colleges or private engineering colleges went across to USA because you did not have the absorption capability at that point in time. Having gone there, they have learnt a lot, they have made a lot of money, but that passion to be a patriotic Indian has not gone despite their NRI status. So again the government comes up with the OCI card initiative where you bring them back here, and a lot of people even in Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, Coimbatore, they have come back. And they have now brought the technology, they have brought the money, and now is the time for us, those in uniform, to link up with them, tell them, this is what I want. I was pleasantly surprised to see in Pune about 5 years back, an NRI had brought his expertise in AI and robotics. And what started clicking in my mind is how many applications can I do for the armed forces, of which whether you want a robot to clean your artillery barrel or a tank barrel, or whether you want to use this robotic specialization in a central archival facility where your entire geospatial data is stored, it is catalogued, it is archived. But I don't want to do it manually. I should be looking at an arm which goes and pulls out something. If I want to know about Bahawalpur, how many times my satellite has gone over it in the last 50 years. So I want to see right from the first picture till the last picture which came yesterday night, say, for example. And I will be able to see the change detection in a very chronological manner, and then I can pick up the weapon systems and the targeting that I want to do. So these are very small examples that we have to do. Now, Pune hosting this is a matter of honor and a matter of challenge also. When you look at a space seminar here, that seminar is going to infuse enthusiasm amongst the youngsters that what's happening in Bangalore, what's happening in Trivandrum, what's happening in Hyderabad can also happen very much here, because you are an IT superpower. And please don't forget that space and cyber are deeply interconnected. If you have certain challenges which are there today in the IT sector, in the ground segment, the same challenges are there at sea, the same challenges are there in airspace, in the near space and the outer space. Chandrayaan 3 has given us a lot of imagination, a lot of pride, a lot of self-esteem. But is that all? Now we have signed the Artemis Accord also, which means look at how the government is looking at outer space. You are looking at a position of eminence in outer space, claiming that India will have a share in the outer space race. If there is space-based zero gravity manufacturing, if there is exploitation of an asteroid for minerals, if you are deficient of rare earth material here, maybe you will get it outside there. Whether you want space colonies, whether you want space stations. So all these things are what we should be aiming at. What are the 50 technologies or the areas which Dr. Anupam mentioned is keeping in mind what technology we have today. We are not satisfied with it. We have to look at what is our national mission, what is our national vision. I don't think anyone spelt it out so clearly what Prime Minister Modi spelt out, that by 2047 we want to be a Viksit and Surakshit Bharat. Everything is into that. So by 2047, what would be the technologies? You cannot start investing only in the technologies which you have today, but you have to start looking at what technology we want there. Technologies can be divided under 3 heads. It is the nation's responsibility to equip the armed forces and the police forces and all others in the intelligence agencies with niche technology. It is a moral duty to do that. And then there are emerging technologies which take us to the next about 4 to 5 years or 10 years. And beyond that is what is my urge to all of you is the incubating technologies. That is which is something in my mind. If today I were to say about incubating technologies, I would have said Pune should have a kind of a vehicle which can fly. I would have been here on time. But we are quite contented with 5 kilometers per hour, 10 kilometers per hour. Pune is a very great city. If this had been in North India, by now heads would have opened. We are civilized, so we are bearing with it. I think we need to go much further. Now, similar examples I have for the armed forces also. And when I am giving these examples for the armed forces, it is for the designers who are not in uniform to start looking at it. We have a system of mobilization. That is, our armed forces will mobilize. Mr. Umranikar said that when somebody will have to mobilize from here to the railway station, there will be a problem. That problem is because of the internal dimension which he mentioned. I will give you another problem from the technological dimension. Every 13 to 17 minutes, there is a Chinese satellite on top of us. He is seeing each and every vehicle that is moving. He will see your tanks moving. He will see your artillery guns moving. He will see your ships and submarines. He will see the fighter aircrafts which are being moved around. What does that mean? Our method of mobilization has to change. If we continue to have that same thing of railway siding and rolling stock and power attached to it, and then we are moving, you're not moving anywhere. Take it from me. Op Parakram is a clear example of that. But at that time, it wasn't the satellites which created problem, it was we ourselves who created problem. Now, coming to space dimensions in particular, what should the designers be looking at? In space, the first thing is to have a launch vehicle. So a lot of work has been done by startups, a lot of work has been done by bigger ones like L&T also to get a reusable launch vehicle. So please dream of it and start looking what more can you do for that. What additional material can you look at? Can you look at a material where 100 launches can happen? So that is the research in the materials that you need to do it. Can we look at launch on demand from using a fighter aircraft, a transport aircraft? Can we do it from a mobile rail-based platform? Can we do it from sea? We are the most blessed people. We are near equator. If we are able to launch from sea at any point in time, I think we will earn the maximum revenue in the world, because all those countries which are deprived of launch station will all come to us. And that is one more contribution to space diplomacy. Interestingly, the capability of having a launch from sea should be with the countries which are closer to equator, but that capability rests with Ukraine. So again, there is some question that we have to ask ourselves, that is the education system also a reality to what is required? Now we can say that the new education policy has come, but no policy is ever cast in stone. It will need changes. So we should start looking at changes right now. Like the new education policy and the point which General Brar brought out about the DAP. So when you look at DPP, DAP, DPM, all these policies which are there continuously keep coming up for modification. We are very open to modification. In fact, I can tell you, when the DAP was being made and it came out in 2020, and prior to that, the first one which came up was DPP in 2016, which when our late revered Raksha Mantri Shri Parikar was there, and he himself went through each and every line. So that is the kind of diligence which is required. And then after that, again 2020, which we came up with, and now it is going through a review all over again. And this is where all of you as stakeholders need to please contribute. If you find that there is some process which is antiquated, you find that there is some process which needs tweaking, please do it, please tell us. In addition to such a policy, the government is also very keen to see that various silos, various verticals get connected. And that is where the thought process of Gati Shakti comes in. That if there is something happening in Ministry of Commerce and it can be done by Ministry of Defense, then scales will bring up the business and we will be able to bring in economics into that. And that is where the chambers of commerce are also important. That what makes the mayor go is the money. And if you are able to give us certain policy guidelines where you draft it, you have a round table session, ideating session, and you suggest and then you give it to us, I am sure we will start looking at much more. Like DAP 2020, the number of clauses that we had, the number of suggestions for amendment even before issue were much more than that. So it is not that people sitting in Delhi have a halo around their head and they know everything. In fact, all of us are learners. Even now, people like me, we are all learning, and it's only that he must be working on it silently so that before it is issued, China should not come to know. So that is the strategic culture and wisdom that we must have. Other than the launch vehicles and the launch options, we also need to start looking at multiple payloads. Some of them were covered by Dr. Anupam. And here your imagination has to go wide. A sensor which is on a drone, a sensor which is on an aircraft may not necessarily give us the results, because till war is declared, you cannot cross the border. And you will not be able to pick up what's happening in China in a place called Xining, which is far, far inside. But that's where their movement must be taking place. So that's where the near space and outer space are important. And then the payloads are important. And payloads are not only important from the EO or the SAR, we need much more. We need the sensors which can detect the quality of air even when the sensor is in space. A very simple thought process. If about 20,000 vehicles of China have to move into Tibet, don't you think that the quality of air will be impacted? But where is the sensor? Why should we be satisfied with getting sensors only from Israel always and paying through our nose? That's where Atmanirbharta comes. That's where Atmanirbharta is not related only to manufacturing. The Prime Minister has again said that he would be a satisfied man in Atmanirbharta if the designing is done here. And thereafter, impetus is on manufacturing. Because after designing, then again we need scales of business, and for that, manufacturing has to be here. The government has embarked on a method where we do not prefer TOT, transfer of technology, because in the last 70 years plus, we've seen we always land up in trouble, because last 2 screwdrivers away and the person says, no, you are not getting everything, and then we are stuck. We are going by the joint venture route. We prefer that joint venture route, and 2 of these joint ventures have already succeeded. You all have heard of BrahMos. Now we are at a level where we are even exporting them. So if joint venture means China brings in technology and we give the rest here, and we are joint partners where profit loss is shared as per the percentage, and we don't have bindings to say that we cannot export. So that is the kind of mature joint venture that we want. And after that, while BrahMos was absolute high technology, we went for a low technology, that is AK-203. So you can see in the entire spectrum, from high technology to low technology, you can make the joint venture model succeed. There will still be some criticalities for which we will have to go and have our collaborations with foreign partners, and that's where you all have heard of the ISET, which we are doing with USA, and on the close heels of that we did one with UK, and then another one where we are looking at South Korea, India and USA working together. So that is another way where if we don't have that expertise, we will perforce have to look around and see who can give it to us. But even then, that's not the last solution. After doing such agreements, we must work on a research so that endlessly we don't get tied to these partners. There are criticalities which will be discussed during the sessions today. One particular session which General Pannu and I will be running, where we will try to guide the industry what we want. Sensors is one thing which I explained to you. Semiconductors is very much known to all of us. One of the things which I have always imagined that can be done in Pune, or it can be done in Coimbatore or Chennai, these are the cities which drive the automotive industry. And we are still looking around and begging and borrowing and pleading for engines. I have not understood why we can't make our own engine, and particularly when you are dependent on G404 or 414, then your arm twisting will happen, and it is happening. So that is the point why we cannot look at, and Pune is a place where engines, Kirloskar engines have been there for generations. The grandfather was there, the father was there, the son is there, and you look at the grandson, he is also wanting to do that. So this is an ecosystem which should be looked at. So we look at what can be generated out of Pune, which can be done best. We don't have to copy everyone what is happening elsewhere. When Bengaluru was coming up, because ISRO was there, it is suddenly you found the IT infrastructure coming up in Hyderabad, and then space started coming up in Hyderabad. Pune can replicate that. There is enough to be done. There is enough appetite for us till 2047, which can be done from every possible state, every possible smart city. Smart city is not only meant for comfort, luxury or good living. I think it is also meant for revenue generation. One of the issue which gets generated out of space is data. Tremendous amount of data. I was fortunate and privileged to co-author a book along with General Shekatkar, General Patil. These are the luminaries who guided us. And we spoke of data sovereignty. And when we spoke of data sovereignty, please look at yourself critically. Whatever data we are generating today is not resting with us. It is going out. Everything possibly is being manipulated outside. And even before you type Goa, you get 10 destinations from Goa. That is AI. So when we talk of AI, please look at data. Organize your data properly and ensure that your data is secure. Why do I say that? A lot of data comes from space, that, and what Dr. Anupam said, multiple satellites, they are linked to each other, there is edge computing happening, the entire downlink, the bandwidth is being used very well. After that, data comes and rests here somewhere, and if that is not secure, there are chances of data poisoning. So if you are thereafter trying to target a particular place and your data is not secure, then you would go to the wrong place. And that is where again Pune comes important, that how can you keep your data centers secure? How can you keep the data clouds secure? How can you keep the data which is on the move, whether it is downlink or uplink, how can you keep it secure? So that is something again which can be done. Again, from the automotive industry, a lot of work can be done in Pune. There are challenges which are visible in space today, and there are challenges which will happen more. Space is ridden with debris. We are still not talking of solutions to clear the debris, reduce the debris, or divert the debris. Can that be done in Pune? Of course, it can be done. If somebody dreams of it, it can be done. Can we ensure that our satellites are kept safe? Again, your satellites can be tampered through cyber. So again, that security solution can be worked out here. Robotics and AI can ensure that you can possibly capture a redundant satellite also and take it away. So that solution also can be developed here. And if there is a solution to take your redundant satellite, you can do it to your enemy also. So these are strategic culture issues which are not spoken very often, but in roundtable discussion, possibly General Pannu and I can do it, because I think that is a session by invitation. So we will be able to guide all of you there. There are certain payloads which we need as of yesterday or day before yesterday. One is ground penetration and second is foliage penetration. Every day you look at the kind of soldiers who are getting killed because terrorists come hide under the foliage or hide behind rocks, or there are tunnels which we've heard of what Hamas has been using. But where are the solutions for the payloads to go in a particular band and look beyond what we can see with naked eye or with the sensors that we have? Those solutions also we need. And the earlier we get it, then we don't have to do all these candle marches, which to my mind are just cosmetic enough. It is our responsibility to ensure that we give solutions to our soldiers so that they don't become martyrs. About education and human capital. Possibly this is the last point so that I don't delay the subsequent sessions. Everyone is talking of launch vehicle, a satellite, an antenna, a ground station, a mobile station. We are talking of hardware, we are talking of software. What about the skinware? Last week I went to Chennai, and along with the Honorable Governor, we had an initiative called the Space Kids. Students from all possible corners of the country participated in that, and we made them give out what do they feel when they grow up, what kind of solutions, technological solutions do they want to see, and they made models and they displayed it for all of us to see. They were not from international schools. They were not from all convent schools. There were children from Latur, there were children from Parbhani, and we told them that when you come on the stage and you speak about what technology has to offer, don't have to speak in English. You can speak in Hindi, you can speak in whatever language. Somebody or the other here in this hall will understand that language. There were children from Chhattisgarh, there were children from Government School of Mumbai. And when they came, one particular child, and I was narrating it to General Pannu today morning, he was a boy who was studying in a Marathi medium school, and he came on the stage and he said, look, neither English nor Hindi is my mother tongue. I can speak in Marathi, but I will make an effort and speak in Hindi. And he spoke so well. In 2 minutes, he told us, I am impressed that technology has all the answers, but beyond technology, a human being like me has the best answer. I went and I actually gave a hug to that young boy. So what I am trying to say is we have human resource. All those people in this hall can convert that human resource into human capital. And that can only happen because I am very sure in this hall, everyone loves India. Am I right? Yes. So that is our responsibility. I don't think it is responsibility of only Prime Minister Narendra Modi or only of the President. So we all have to take the lead. Let's do something which will take us ahead. And my compliments to the organizers. You've done very well. And I think this should not be the last one. And we should be there to mentor all our startups, all our youngsters. AIT has done well to integrate the students with the kind of industry, MSME and others who are there. My compliments to AIT also. And if I have missed out somebody, it is not because I don't want to mention, but for want of time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for an inspiring and insightful address. Moving ahead with today's agenda, I request the dignitaries to please come up on stage. So we release MCCI's publication, the event booklet, come exhibitors directory. The chairs could still stay there. I mean, there is a small video release after this release, so they'll need to resume the seating arrangements.
All right. You want that?
Yes, please.
We'll have to release the booklet and then we'll go back again. Please. Okay, please.
This publication has some interesting articles about MCCI, the Defense Committee, articles written by some of the industry experts, as well as details about the exhibitors.
Come, sir, come. Come, sir, please come.
The soft copy of this booklet shall soon be circulated. Thank you. May I request to please resume the previous seating arrangements? Moving ahead, we would now be launching the Drishti portal. It is developed by Vasundhara Geotechnologies Private Limited and is a standalone open source geo portal aimed at making an insight generating data cube. Drishti not just enables wide data access but also makes analysis of fused data streamlined and easy, providing varied visualization options and report generation customization. I hand over to Advait Kulkarni from Drishti to take it forward.
I'll just take 30 seconds to acknowledge MCCI and the organizers of this conference. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity for launching our Drishti platform, sir. And with your permission, if I could just play so that I'd assume that you would say.
Every day, thousands of satellites orbit our planet, creating a web of technology that powers our modern world. These powerful machines connect us and silently shape our lives. High above us, satellites continuously scan the Earth, capturing petabytes of data every single day. This data is more than just images, it's a powerful tool for understanding our world. The sheer volume can be overwhelming. Sorting through this data to find meaningful insights is the real challenge. Welcome to the Drishti portal, your single platform for all remote sensing needs. Where you can discover all data in a single interface. Analyze imagery using full automation. Visualize in the third dimension seamlessly without changing interface or losing processed output. Generate vectors of large areas with extreme ease. And when it gets difficult, you can always fall back on our chatbot to get things done. We bring the world to your fingertips with cutting-edge geospatial data and insights. Whether you're mapping, analyzing, or planning, Drishti empowers you with the tools to navigate and understand the complexities of our world. Welcome to Drishti, your one true spatial partner.
With that, I think it is being made public now. It's final in its first phase. It's being made public. Please visit us in stall 27 for demonstrations and sign-ups. I hope. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations to the Drishti team. I request Mr. Harsh Gune, member, Core Group Defense Committee of MCCI, to please propose the vote of thanks.
Dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries off the dais, armed forces representatives and industry representatives. Namaskar, namaste, very good afternoon. What a day it has been. A great honor and a great privilege to listen to the dignitaries and listen to the vision. Khandare sir, Pune DevTech and participants also, it's not just a couple of words. It's a mission and endeavor of all the fraternity in Pune to essentially recognize or which signifies or epitomizes the proven capabilities in this region, and the very fact that Pune and the industry here has demonstrated and proven that we can really develop critical technologies. every nook and corner in Pune, in fact, has huge success stories in form of sustainable business. And like you mentioned, the NRIs, I personally see a lot of positive reverse movements from NRIs or even the medium scale companies, their second generation coming back from the established or developed economies, and they are taking up the challenge of taking their business ahead. And the important factor is the industry here has an impeccable pace of technology adoption, which is very rare, because I've been fortunate enough to interact and work on other corridors and other industries. But the distinctive factor here, which is really encouraging, is the ability to adopt changes. That is very unique. And MCCI, like Mr. Phadke mentioned, has been very active in initiating events, seminars, and collaborative frameworks through the Defense Committee. And very recently, we also formed Atmanirbhar Center of Excellence together with support from RTN to have collaborative framework addressing the opportunities out of indigenization, out of problem statements, and how we foster innovation. On the occasion of the first anniversary of Space Day, we envisaged a collaborative framework. And Khandari sir, I assure you, this is not the first or one off event. We will have series of engagements and collaborative frameworks, and we, with an aim obviously to take Pune to a level where it is recognized as the defense technology hub, including the space. And when we talk about space, we wanted to understand what it means for national security, both externally and internally. So that's why we were fortunate that Umranikar sir could spend some time, and he was also surprised, but it's really fortunate that you could spend some time and share. And I sincerely thank and appreciate the efforts of SRGF. I don't know whether Varun is here, led by Varun, who really gave the right perspective to this event. I mean, we were dwelling upon how we do it, given the defense and space. So the outline and this couldn't have happened in a much, any other way. And sincerely thank you, Khandari sir, for coming down and sharing the vision and the insights. And I hope the support continues in near future, because we have, in fact, outlined various activities. After you can speak later. You can lead. You can speak. Yeah. You can later speak. Shekharkar sir, thank you so much. I mean, it has always been a privilege and pleasure to listen to you. Anupam sir, it was great having you here. Umranikar sir, obviously, it was great listening to coming from the heart statements on the internal security. Thank you, Lieutenant General Bar, for wonderful presentation as always. I mean, we have seen wonderful presentation at Southern Command, I think 3 or 4 years, some time back. Phadke sir, thank you not only for this, but for demonstrating that a private industry and a conglomerate can really establish a very reliable supply chain. And thank you from the bottom of heart for integrating the MSMEs and taking them along with all the mentoring, the support, whatever vendor development or supply chain partnership. I think it amounts for a great deal of achievement for the private industry. And I hope many such industrial houses would come forward, and in future, the support and integration of the MSMEs would definitely continue. And MCCI's Defense Committee would look forward to have initiatives where we integrate supply chain in the emerging technologies. Thank you, eminent speakers who would form the important discussions on the panel. Thank you all the participants and industry representatives who are showcasing their products here. I think we got huge response. So a great round of applause for all the participants and dignitaries. On behalf of industries, we would like to thank MCCI, Mr. Girmani, Mr. Prashant, and the entire team for putting up the remarkable, event that is, and hope again we continue to have these interactions. So finally, thank you everyone, and hope you enjoy the interactions. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Yes. May I please request the dignitaries for a group picture, please? And then we will immediately be starting with the next technical session. Thank you to all our dignitaries. I request my team to please set up the stage for the next session. The next session is the technical session. So now we begin with our next technical session, analysis of the current landscape and futuristic perspectives in emerging defense technologies. The session chair, Lieutenant General Dr. P.J.S. Pannu, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, ex-Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff Ops, Senior Advisor and Chair of Defense Space Committee, SI India and Governing Board Member, SRGF. I request everyone to please be seated for the next session. I request everyone to please be seated so we begin the next session. For the next session, I invite Dr. Chaitanya Giri, Space Fellow, Observer Research Foundation, Advisory Board Member of SIA India. I request the speakers to please join us on the stage. General Dr. P.J.S. Pannu, General Brar, Rear Admiral Nelson D'Souza, Colonel Sunil Fatehpur and Mr. Pranav Satyanath. May I please request everyone to please be seated so we begin our next session. We have the speakers ready on the stage. There is a slight change in the agenda. We will be having the lunch break after this session, and then we will continue with the next 2 sessions after the lunch break. I request Chaitanya, Dr. Chaitanya, to please take over the moderator of this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be moderating this very exciting session of this very first exciting Pune Deaf Space Tech seminar. This conference, this seminar has been long in making, and I have been part of the early deliberations of this conference, and we are pretty sure that in the coming days and years, this seminar will grow big. It will tap into the real potential of the geography that we are sitting in, of the city that we are sitting in, not only bringing a positive change in the innovation landscape of the city, but also making sure that the city as an innovation hub delivers to the national security cause, especially security aspects that emanate from outer space and security aspects that are not just touching the military domain, but also the homeland security domain, as we have heard, and as there has been demand for more to be heard of. So the session is known as Analysis of the Current Landscape and Futuristic Perspectives in Emerging Defense Technologies. We just have half an hour. So before I try to steer anything, and rather than asking question, we have an eminent panel and with full of experience and expertise. I'll let them take charge of it. So firstly, I'd like to introduce and invite Lieutenant General Pannu. Pannu sir, you've been a doyen of India's Defense Space Agency, and you played a pivotal role in its establishment. I'll let you explain what is lying ahead for Pune and the neighboring geography.
जय हिंद, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, बरसों से रहा है दुश्मन ये जहां हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा. Why I spoke about this is because this is how General Khandare finished by saying, do we love our country? So जब सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा की बात होती है, तो look at the map of India, and there is a controversy right there. If I ask somebody to flash a map of the world in which India looks in a particular way, people will say, this is not the map of India. And somebody will say, no, this is the map of India. And therefore, one of the most fortunate things that I have is that I got commissioned in the Maratha Light Infantry. And you find that when you talk about the space and that we've come to Pune and we are celebrating the Space Day, space is the highest vantage point of the god. And the first thing that I spoke about was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, that he had a vision which was the vision from top. And Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj also knew the use of high ground. Go to Kundana Killa and you would know what we are talking about. He always kept Maulas on top who would give the information, and he knew where to keep the force and know the weakness, know the strengths of the enemy. He had all the analysis in mind, and that is the value of the strategic high point in that battlefield. I was also very fortunate that I got an opportunity of commanding 14 Corps, which is the highest battlefield of the world. And I was giving a reference to the map of India where it becomes a controversy. 38,000 square kilometers of excitation and about 34,000 square kilometers of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan stares at your eyes as not being your territory while the map says so. And therefore, in 1947, when we became independent, have we lost territory or we could not claim a territory becomes a question. And if we have to claim the territory, we have to live there in mind space and later on in physical space. But I think between then and now, a lot has happened. That Pakistan being Pakistan, the China has gone into the excitation, into the Pakistan occupied Kashmir and has made a reflection of excitation, because China is on the right and China is on the left, while Pakistan is on the left, but Pakistan could also be advising them from the right. So when you are sitting in Siachen Glacier or flying to DBO or coming to Kargil, you are actually staring at different nations, but both are looking at us from the collusivity point of view. Almost 22,000 kilometers is the territory that we need to defend. About 15,000 land borders and about 7,500 is our maritime boundary. And really speaking, this morning, when the police mentioned that हमें भी ध्यान में रख लेना जब कोई टेक्नोलॉजी बनाते हो तो, our borders are being guarded by the police. Border guarding forces, the BSF, the ITBP, the Coast Guard is all paramilitary force, and it is the Ministry of Home Affairs which deals with that. And tomorrow, if there is war, there has to be a correlation between border guarding to border defense to fighting a war. So therefore, the first thing when you're talking about the landscape of technology is concerned, we need to internally understand our structures. That if we have to build a frontier, we have to build a smart frontier, because smart frontier is actually based on technology and use of technology into areas where we should have been and we are not. Second thing is that during war, the situation is going to dramatically change between border guarding to fighting a war. So how does the BSF, the ITBP transfer the responsibility to the military or the army is a question mark. And it is extremely important that the technology binds us together and we build smart frontiers. And we cannot build smart frontiers unless whole of nation sits behind us, including the industry, the research and development. All that is there as single nation giving you a smart frontier, where the police, the army, the border guarding, the internal security, all the elements are together. Incidentally, today the NSA is a police officer. Today, a person who heads the technology vertical in the NSA is also police officer, Mr. Rajendra Khanna. The police officers who are actually heading the national security, the RAW and the IBs, police officers. If the police officers are not the one who are guiding the technology and the national security, then who else is guiding? Of course. So therefore, I'm saying that we are subordinated to a thought process where police is not behind. If police reforms have to be done, well, that is another matter altogether. But I think we are one, and therefore, I think we need to sit together and think technology from one unified point of view, is that we have to be smart together. Second thing, the Army, Navy, Air Force, three elements of war fighting have to come together. And then you start talking about the multi-domain operations. You have to do land warfare, the marine warfare, and the air warfare on single platforms which are talking to one another, and they form one common operating picture. And one common operating picture is not for somebody to see it. One common operating picture is supposed to give you the meshed intelligence and enable you for meshed operations. So therefore, it is now not the three that I spoke about, it is also the space is the fourth frontier and cyber is the fifth frontier. And sir, you have come at the right time. The police forces are the ones which are also a frontier, which actually are all along. So since in your absence, I spoke about the importance of police, that the border guarding is all in the hands of the police officers today. So we have to actually build our things together. Now tell me one thing. If the ITBP is looking at an area, if the BSF is looking at an area, over a period of time they've gathered some intelligence, you declare a national emergency, external emergency, and you go to war and the mobilization happens. Who's giving you all this information? Where is the transfer? Where do we have the common decks of information? And how are you going to have a meshed intelligence which is already available to those who are replacing or who are coming into the action on the frontier? We look like strangers. Unfortunately, during Op Parakaram, the Union War Book provisions were never invoked. It means the police forces are supposed to be coming under command. The military never came. The BSF had no idea that the military is to come and actually occupy defenses in those areas. We haven't got any orders. How are we going to fight a war like this? So therefore, it is not the command and control. I think the technology has to do a lot together. Next thing, congratulations to the Drishti. When I saw this unfold, I was remembered of the Mosaic warfare. I think they are the ones who will build Mosaic warfare platform for us. This is the skin of Mosaic warfare. We have to build Mosaic. Our territories are well defined. When I talk about Excite Chain, I speak about the POK. Do you know, we had 1971 war. Of course, we were victorious. It was one of the best operations known internationally that we created a new nation. But we also lost Chum, which is today with Pakistan. How did we lose it? We don't talk about it because we want to talk about things which are victorious. Let's talk about our victory, yes, but let's also talk about what we need to do. I think gap identification and what we could have done and we could not do is also extremely important. So therefore, we need to have a base layer of what we do not have, rather than keep tom-tomming about what we have and where we are going to go. Yes, we are strong. Yes, we will go somewhere. Yes, we have a mission. Yes, we have a vision. But I think we need to first talk about that if our territories are well-defined, if our problems are well-defined, then therefore our plans in organization, plans in technology, and plans in meshed operations cannot be misplaced at this time. I think we have to stop talking about it. It's time for action. Another thing is that when you talk about the Internet of battle technology, battle things, IOBT and IOMT, in the tactical battle area where the military is fighting is the Internet of battle things. And when the whole nation is fighting and supporting the tactical battle areas is the Internet of military things. So police is included in the Internet of military things. Whereas in the tactical battle area, the border guarding forces are very much included part of it. So we have to build a single mosaic there. So therefore, I will not take much time because since morning we've been talking about space and we are talking about cyber. But I think the number of layers that we have created over a period of time, we have to mesh them together through technology, which is Indian technology. And more we do standoff warfare Standoff would mean that more can be handed over to the ununiformed people. The moment you go into a contact that can be the uniformed, the standoff warfare can be done by the scientists, the technologists, engineers, and the industry. So let's define what is standoff warfare, and let's support the nation by actually creating this whole thing that we will support the operation in standoff warfare so that the soldier on the edge does not even get the brunt of the adversary. I was also fortunate that I built a National War Memorial, and General Khandare was there. 27,000 names were etched in golden letters. All those who lost their life fighting after we got independence. We've lost more than, now counting, at that time counting 5 years, now we are close to 28,000 soldiers of the Indian Armed Forces who have actually lost their lives fighting the Indian battles. Let's not allow this to happen and let technology take over. So we will have our discussion, Chaitanya, and thank you very much. So I thought I'll cover a little bit of national security and the police, that we are one and therefore we are Hindustan. We're going to be together. Jai Bharat.
Before I move on to Lieutenant General Brar, I'd like to introduce one thing which was missed earlier this morning in the inaugural session, that MCCIA along with SRGF, the Army Institute of Technology, ISER Pune, and under the aegis and auspices of the Southern Command has started a Atmanirbhar Center of Excellence. This Center of Excellence aims to bring in academic inputs, industry inputs, startup inputs, so that the user demand which is coming from the Southern Command is fulfilled. As Khandari sir rightly put, that Pune is emerging as a technology hub for the army. A lot of institutions are around. Pune is known as the Oxford of the East, but we've been doing a lot of theoretical stuff. Now is the time that we move on to the more tactical as well as the strategic practicalities. So the audience, which is of course a lot of vendors, a lot of startups, would like to know what kind of use cases are coming up from your auspices, sir.
Okay, Jain, honored to be again on the stage. So I'll try and answer your question. You see, if everybody has to understand, a lot of technology, domain and everything, so I'll try and simplify in my own terms. You see, we are into second, and as far as war fighting, we are into second disruption. I'm not quoting any Western this thing. The first disruption in war fighting happened when we mechanized, not mechanized into armored. I mean, when we, from sword, bows and arrows, horses and elephants, we converted into guns, rockets, and any army that time, including our kings and all, who converted mechanized with guns, they won the wars. So this mechanization process continued, and we have improved our weapons, better aircraft, better weapons, better this thing. Now this second disruption is on information, data, communications, space. So this second disruption, if we miss, again, it will be, just imagine that if we don't do that, we'll be left behind as a nation or an army. So we have to be on board and we have the wherewithal. This second disruption has also resulted in, you see, before this, there were three domains, Army, Navy, Air Force. I mean, basically land, sea, air. But this second disruption has created more domains of war fighting, which has been highlighted, space, cyber, EM spectrum, and you can go into cognitive and all that, which is changing mind perception. And this internal warfare actually has been held, this internal security is being held by technology. Your social media is generating so much of all that. So these domains which have been created are because of technology. Now what the youngsters and people want to do is, Army, Navy, Air Force is there, we are into uniform fighting. You have to fight the other domain wars. And there is even a thought. We say that we are not at war. I think that's a misnomer. We are already, the world is at war in all the other, these 3-4 domains which are happening. And in fact, they may be achieving better results than getting into a, army, our army fighting some other army. So these 3-4 domains which are there is all in private sector. We have seen Elon Musk, we have seen all other examples. So these are the domains which you have to build. The most important domain is, of course, space is there, but I will say is the ISR, because ISR is a domain which can be on land, sea, space, and this thing. If we have information, now General Pannu and everybody has said that police knows, how do we know? This ISR domain has to be interlinked between everybody. It has to be from cyber OSINT which is coming. It has to be what is there with the police, what is there with the army, what is there with the NTRO, what is there with the space, what is there with the local human int, with the local, everything has to be fused. So there has to be one agency or one method. They may not be agencies, we can always be functionally together. So in ISR domain is something which we need to do tremendously. Now coming to space. Now we talk of multi-domain. But let's say we have Admiral Nelson of Navy. We say we are in naval domain, but if we don't have any ships, how will we have anything to do in the sea? How will we dominate sea if we don't have ships or of submarines or any other things? Similarly, in the space, we can keep on talking of space domain, but where are the assets and resources? So we have to, all these domains, we have to create an asset. So space, of course, has been highlighted very much, what all can do, and all startups are gearing, whether you can build a rocket, it has been done by startups, whether you can have a satellite which can remain there, you can have micro satellites, you can, the whole field is open. And the other important thing is of the cyber. Now, all the things which are happening as far as in your software domain is concerned, if you don't have the controls, I am talking of, cyber security, if it is not with you. Now, cyber security can be, you can, have this thing on a satellite, you can have it on a aircraft, you can have it on a drone, you can have it on internet. The cyber security is another field which is expanding tremendously. We had, I think, few weeks back, a Microsoft outage. Now that happened because of a glitch. But actually now people have realized if they want, they can shut the world. The Microsoft as a company can shut down the world. So we don't have an operating system, we don't have this thing. So because any AI, any ML, any algo which you are developing has to be your own, indigenous. You see, if we don't have that our own, then definitely we are making a huge mistake. So these are the technologies which, we have to have with ourselves. Then there are one or two more points. There is something called quantum, which we have been talking, but I'll just highlight. All other media transmissions which take place can be jammed, spoofed, and everything. But quantum, as of now, if we, let's say, have quantum communication, we are trying to build a model with IIT. I'm laying a cable through us from our headquarters to another place to check few things. Quantum cannot be jammed. Quantum cannot be decrypted. So quantum is something which we all need, and whatever little knowledge I have of quantum, we are again working in silos. So that is again, we need to get together. Another thing which maybe General Khandare can take, wherever these things are developing, we don't have the defense thought into that. Let's say MITI or Communication Ministry or somebody else is doing, they are doing from their civil perspective. But none of these technologies, sooner or later they will impact the defense. So we have to have somebody from the defense associated with all this. Then next is energy resources. You see, lithium is controlled by China. But we had some event in Chennai. People are coming up as a replacement of lithium by using molasses, something else. And, energy is another field where, in any case, for, environmental things, you should be using less of rare earth materials. But there are people who have demonstrated all this. So that is an energy field that we can have some, good energy materials for energy. So I will leave it. The last point I want to say is of drones, because drones is a famous. Why is drone become very, popular? It is because of, again, technology that we have, command links and all which have come up. But drones, I mentioned in my last speech, I think, the technology doesn't destroy anything. It is, again, the Army, Navy, Air Force guns which will destroy. But drones is one kind of a weapon system which can, it completes the OODA loop in itself. You see, observe, orient, decide and act. So if your guns are separate, somebody will give you an ISR, you collate it and the guns fire, or your aircraft fire, or maybe your tanks or whatever they fire. But drone is one kind of a element where it can go observe, decide, and if it is having AI, it can fire itself also. Of course, there should be a man in the loop. So that's how, drones are becoming so resourceful. They are cheap, and if they get destroyed, it doesn't matter. So again, drone technology, but again in drone, our, autopilot or these, there are companies in India which are making it. And I will recommend that don't use cheaper Chinese versions of your autopilot or your command links or your firmware or anything else. Use the Indian one, because if you make a drone, then it can be easily be controlled by China. So I think I'll end there. Thank you, Jayan.
Thank you very much, Colonel Brar. Most of the technologies that you spoke of are of great interest to the research institutions located in and around Pune, and perhaps, with consistent interactions that we would have through this platform, maybe that will get communicated very well with these institutions. Before I move on to Rear Admiral Nelson D'Souza, I'd like to mention an example which most of my entrepreneur friends would relate with, especially those who are running the startups. So I am a scientist turned think tanker, and during my initial days while I was doing my PhD, I was working with a lot of solar physicists. This was in Germany. They were working on the equivalents of Aditya L1 mission that we launched last year. So Solar Orbiter and some other American missions. And while I was doing something else, I realized that a lot of these graduates who were studying solar physics were just observing the sun during the daytime. They were later being hired by Lockheed Martin. They were hired by universities which were on grants from the US Navy. While I digged a little deeper, I found out that the US Navy is one of the biggest sponsors, or rather the biggest sponsor of space weather projects around the world, only to maintain their carrier battle groups, only to maintain their expeditionary capabilities. So academicians getting transmitted into military domain. The next encounter with one of the navies was when my own project, so I worked on a project which was MASCENT. Sir, you mentioned, Dr. Sharma mentioned MASCENT. My project was dedicated to picking up samples from a comet, analyzing them there and then, and understanding the organic composition of the comet as well as the radionuclide isotopic composition of the cometary surface, whatever it is made up of. Mission successful, space mission, great papers, science papers, nature papers for all the scientists there. Later on, the part which was trying to study the isotopic composition was picked up by BAE Systems. BAE Systems then retrofitted it, slightly changed it, modified it, and then put it on the SSBN called Astute, the Astute class of SSBNs which came around 2015, 2016, the recent ones. What were they doing in Astute? You can very well guess. They were trying to measure any leakages, radiation leakages from that nuclear submarine into the living quarters of the submarine. Okay, that's another stint with the Navy. The third stint was while I was studying a material called graphene. Graphene is a material of great interest to all the material scientists, all those who are into electronics. Why do we study graphene? Because it is said to be the next semiconductor after silicon. Now, I was trying to study graphene in meteorites that fell on Earth from outer space. And I went to the Smithsonian lab because meteorites were with Smithsonian. But later on I found that a lot of literature that I was referring to was coming from the Naval Materials Lab, which is located in Washington, DC. So the gamut of research that a Navy can do because of its vast global expeditionary capabilities is immense. And I'm sure Millet is focusing a lot on them. And maybe in the coming years, or in the coming months, if not years, the academic institutions who are not directly linked with military studies or strategic studies will connect with Millet to come up with some joint projects. Sir, over to you.
Jayan, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think very good introduction given by Dr. Chaitanya. Today we have had very eminent speakers with a lot of experience giving their part of the story. So today I will straight away get into the topic which we have chosen today is with respect to perspectives in emerging defense technologies. I look after the Military Institute of Technology, which is like we bought out, I think something talked about Oxford of the East. So it's East, not Oxford of the East, but East of Pune. yeah. So we just to give you a background for people from the industry here, in Military Institute of Technology, we have at an average 200 bright young service officers from all the three services, the Army, Navy and the Air Force, doing a long course with us, with doing a master's degree at the end of it. So substantially they are here placed with us for a long period of a year. So during that period of time, these officers, in pursuit of their master's degree, they take up any dissertation courses. And what we have done now is, they are very young, bright, brilliant in their 10 to 15 years of service with a great domain knowledge. When I say great domain knowledge, in any domain, whether it's space, land, sea, underwater. So what we have been doing off late, we have done is, and especially from directions of also from General Kandare, we have connected up with the industry. So what happens is we have told the students, okay, you do real projects. Instead of doing dissertations in theoretical subjects, we are looking at some use cases. So we have already tied up with a couple of industries, bitmappers here, we are doing something with them, some more companies, and we are ready to join hands so that these officers can link up with you, or if you are having any difficulties with respect to any problem statement, we will ensure those officers are there with you in the industry to help you out, to realize what is useful for the defense forces. Just to straight away, Dr. Chaitanya asked, do we have any use cases? For example, since you are part of the, we get a lot of directions from the, at headquarters, asking us to take up certain projects. So certain use cases which may be of certain interest is autocorrelation of satellite imagery. We have a lot of satellite imagery which happens, and we have drones flying here and there. So what happens is we want to correlate this the imagery which is flown from the drone in real time at high speeds. How do we do it? So this is one problem statement. Second is the GCP correlation. When I say GCP, ground control point correlation, we have got real-time maps which are there. So how quickly can imagery can be correlated with those points? This is the second one. The third use case is something on electro-optical and SAR imagery correlation. So you all are aware the SAR imagery which is there, 12 hours we don't see. So during that time, can we quickly correlate SAR imagery using AI and correlate with the actual images on ground? Similarly, we have got something called a super correlation extraction of DEM models. We are working also with IITs, but we have industry with us. We can get together with IIT, with Millet, and with the industry to realize these problem statements. So these are the few points. So if somebody is interested after the thing or anytime later, can contact Millet. I will leave my contacts with the organizers here. So you please get in touch with us, and we'll be more than glad. Even if you don't have, if you have a problem of realizing some defense related project, we are more than willing to come there and sit with you and help you out, understand. And most of the time the industry fails is only one reason, is because the problem statement is not understood. That's the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So there is a lot of synergy to happen, top down, bottom up. If startups and entrepreneurs up there, if you have any problem statements that you want to share, I think there is a communication line open. Not everything has to come from the top, from Delhi or from the headquarters. If you have a solution in place, if something that they have not conjectured, please communicate. Okay, before I move on to Colonel Sunil Fatehpur, Sarvatra Center of Research and Innovation is one of the prominent names that I keep hearing because I'm glued to the ecosystem. A lot of exciting projects are happening. I'll let him speak.
Very good afternoon to the esteemed dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. And in fact, thank the MCCI for inviting me and for being the panelist. As for the Sarvatra Center for Research Innovation is concerned, we identify the problem statements and try to innovate the things along with the industry and academia. The Millet Commandant just now has mentioned regarding the satellite imagery on the drone fly and all. We were thinking about the concept like now the technology makes you give the data which are online available. So why don't we try to have self-reinforcement, multimodal connectivity are available. So we try to take all the data like generative AIs have been there, a lot of data is available on the net. So using that technology, online processing like Google Earth Engine provides you space for processing. You have Sentinel data, all the data, like we can do that online things. Recently we've seen like in the Sirjap, the last month we had seen that the some fortifications or built up had come. And that we could see from the black sky satellites which was there on the newspaper. So why don't we like wait for the things to see from the newspapers? Why don't we have a capability when we have an infrastructure in place, when we have a technology? We have young minds, we have the innovation-driven ecosystem. So we should work on those platforms because today the technology allows you to do all these activities. Only the problem where it comes is the policies. When the future battle, if I look at the future battle from my perspective, like therefore stands on the 4 pillars. One is the communication. Yes, the space is very, very important. Like you have GPS, the spoofing of GPS can take place. The drone flies with respect to the GPS. It can be GNSS denied areas. How do you fly the drones in those denied areas? That is very, very important. So we have to look forward in that perspective. We have low Earth orbit satellites available today. The space industry has come up. So there are a lot of infusion of economy as far as low Earth orbits is concerned. Recently I was speaking to some of the MSME here. Like we have Hawkeye satellites where radio frequency data have been already available, which have been already mapped by the outside agencies. So now the industry, they have been gearing up so that they can have this radio frequency, which has a covers of 1600 area of SWAT area. So if this data is available to us, and then integration of this data is a really, really a challenge. When we speak about data and data sovereignty, it is very important that interoperability of data should be there in place. When we speak about interoperability of data, without this interoperability, we will never going to be able to use our artificial intelligence, whatever quantum technology we try to use it. The very important is the standardization of a data which has been generated from all the resources. Why I call this standardization is, for that reason we have to work with the global partners like Open Geospatial Consortiums which are there. We have to work with them in the domain working groups so that we test our data with them and be ready, prepared when the technology and infrastructure comes. We are able to infuse these both things and get into the application. So that is very, very important as far as the standardization of data is concerned. Why I speak about standardization is because in Government of India also we have a National Spatial Data Infrastructure. national data infrastructure was developed in 2005, and over the period of time, they had been revamped. They had made some spatial data infrastructures which were there in the country. Now, to educate and use of data is very important to educate the users, educate the organizations also where they've been using this data. So we had MOSPI on the line, that is census data. They had a statistical data, which were already in Excel. Then we had geospatial, geological survey of India, mostly earth data, spatial data. Then we have the soil data. So how do we integrate this data? It's very important to educate them. So it's very important to have a spatial data infrastructure. You have a own infrastructure oblique servers in which we give this organization as a node, so they can experiment their own data before they implement the infrastructure at their own place. Same thing for defense is concerned. We again have a lot of data which is getting curated. It's very important to have something called defense geospatial data structures, where distributed network is available and we are able to infuse the data. The more important is the sustainability of this data, because I'll speak more about data because that is the fuel for whatever the technology or infrastructure we have been having today. So the main important is to capacity building. Who is going to use the data? How they are going to use the data? That is another very important aspect. How are we able to sustain the data for a longer run? Whether who is going to collect the data? Who is going to curate that data? Whether we are having some standards for data, like metadata standards are there. Who has created data? Who has used this data? Again, this is very important aspect as the deep fake, generative AI is concerned. So these are very, very important aspect as far as data is concerned. And when we speak about IoT devices and all, again, this lot of data is being generated in this. So it's very important that policy is very, very important. It has to be in place. Like I closely work with the Swamit project, which was of Survey of India, where the drone technology has flourished for the last 4 to 5 years. So I personally have seen, like we were mapping the government of Andhra Pradesh resurvey mapping and also the Swamit project, in which rural urban areas were being mapped. So they were mapped with respect of drones. In like 2018-19, the drones were just coming up in India. The plan was, why not we fly with your drones, because it's easy to fly. There is no weather conditions. So slowly when we were trying to fly these drones, having a base station and all, we had to take an ATC clearance before flying. So what used to happen is when we used to go to Visakhapatnam to fly, we used to feel like from Vijayawada we can take an ATC clearance. But they used to say, no, you have to take from Calcutta because it comes under the airspace of Calcutta. So when we used to go to Tirupati to fly, they used to say that we thought from Chennai we can take an air traffic control permission. They said you have to take from Bidar because it comes to their airspace. So there were a lot many regulations which they were flying, and because of this, it used to take time to do it. So the period of time, the aviation ministry, the DGCA were able to understand because it was a national importance project. So the period of the problems were showed to them, and slowly the drone rules has come up. These were one of the major inputs which were been given for making the drone rules 2021. So over the period of time, when drone rules have come up, and thereafter the digital sky platform, they have been revamped themselves. So the airspace flying of drone, again, that has been minimized. Like you have 5 kilometers from the red zone, outer yellow, inner yellow, and the green. So they have been optimized the security classifications for that. Foreign direct investment has been pumped in so that the drone can be made in India. So this is how the drone was flourished, and that was only possible now when the drones have been everywhere because of the policy disruption. So policy is very, very important at one place to technology to implement and to be deployed on the ground. As far as AI is concerned, I'll just we speak about autonomy. When we speak about autonomy, it is like very important ethically to how much autonomy has to be given to the system. Whether it should be human over the loop, whether it should be human in the loop, or it should be human out of the loop. When I say this, you should prioritize this, then only your system will be able to do it better. When I say human over the loop, like if I want to visit a place or something, which is the best place for this thing, it gives me all the vacation where all I have to go. That is over the loop, it's fine. There is no any this thing. If I have to say human in the loop, so that is when it is going to be a medical diagnostic, whether it is going to potential damage. So that is the one thing. When I say human over the loop, that is the place when last minute decision has to be taken. So this has to be categorized very specifically as far the AI and the information is concerned. With this note, I would like to say that whatever the technology we have been using, it's very important that data integration, interoperability, standardization is very, very important. And I think we should work closely industry industry also, how to standardize it in hand to hand with the technology and the industry partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Fatehpur. I'll quickly move on to Pranav Satyanath, my friend. He's worked with Takshashila Institution in the past, with CSDR, a Delhi-based think tank, and now he is a policy advocate and associate with SkyServe, one of the upcoming space startups. Over to you.
Thank you, Chaitanya, for the introduction. I would like to thank the MCCIA for inviting me here, and also the Strategic Research and Growth Fund for extending my invitation to come to Pune. It's indeed an honor to be speaking on this panel because I'm, other than Chaitanya, I'm the only civilian on this panel. Yes, other than Chaitanya, I'm the only civilian on this panel. And it's almost a moment that made me think a lot because 5 years ago, when I was only 23 years old, I was sitting opposite to General Pannu talking about the developments in defense space technology and doctrine when DSA was a very young organization. So what I want to do today was to hold that point, 2019, as the starting point of where we have come 5 years and make an assessment of what General Pannu and I got right and what we got wrong, because in 2019 we were just making estimates and guesses. So I just want to give an overview of what's happening today. Let me first begin with things that we care about the most in space, satellites. In 2019, all of us assumed that cube satellites and small satellites and low Earth orbit mega constellations was the thing. To some degree, we were right. Satellites are getting smaller. Satellites are getting much smarter, and you do not require the kind of hardware that you used to back in 20 years ago to do things. But in some ways, we were also wrong because mega constellations are again becoming a thing of the past. Nobody wants small satellites that are less capable. Today, what governments are going for are bigger satellites with powerful sensors and with powerful onboard computing that allows you to do a lot more. So the architectures they're choosing are not just in LEO, but a distributed architecture with satellites in MEO, LEO, and GEO, and in very eccentric orbits. It's not just low Earth orbits. In order to keep themselves redundant and resilient, they're choosing orbits that have not been used before in order to have global coverage and persistent coverage. Second, space debris and resident space objects. In 2019, we knew that space debris would be a problem, but we did not anticipate the sheer number of space objects that would be put up every single year. By 2021, there were about 2,000 satellites that were going up every year, and the demand for knowing what is in space also grew. So the policy response and the technology response for space situational awareness and space domain awareness increased massively. So that is something that we missed. We did not know that both government and startups would be so interested in developing technologies that would help you monitor continuously what is happening in our orbits. Next, counter space capabilities. Once again, we knew anti-satellite weapons the kinetic anti-satellite weapons were not a part of the future because kinetic anti-satellite weapons generate debris. So we knew that the future was in electronic warfare, jamming, and cyber capabilities. But the Russia-Ukraine war made us aware that it is in fact far more common. Anti-satellite warfare is ubiquitous today. It is happening right now. And we as Indians must be really, really careful as to how we make our satellites invulnerable to non-kinetic jamming and non-kinetic attacks. Some of the things that we really missed out in 2019 was space data. Finally, no matter how many satellites you have in space, what really matters is data. Data is the one that you use in order to get insights. Because of the number of satellites that have gone up, the amount of data, the terabytes and petabytes of data that's being generated is massive. That requires processing, that requires storage, and that comes at a cost. So we did not really anticipate the amount of data that was being generated and how we gather insights. Another aspect is we did not look at the sheer amount of insights that would be able to gather from open data. For example, when you look at Sentinel-2 data, Sentinel-2 captures a lot of data in space itself because they're taking pictures. And if you observe carefully, you can make open source assessments about resident space objects. So you're able to see what satellites are there in space through Earth observation images itself. So open data provides you a massive potential if you have the right tools for analysis. That brings me to my next point, software. Software is almost ignored completely when we talk about space. But what really enables space data to translate into actionable insights is software. In India, we have massive potential with software. We are able to do things with software, and we're able to integrate data in ways that we never thought of before. So the software stack in space is something that we have seen in the United States, in Europe, within the space forces, is getting close attention. For example, for SSA, people don't just buy satellite data, but they're buying dedicated platforms to see how to visualize activities in space. More importantly, how do you integrate different sources of data? Space data alone has several trade-offs. So therefore, how do you integrate space data, drone data, AIS data, ground sensor data, in order to give the battlefield, the soldiers on the battlefield, a near complete picture of what's happening? So therefore, software is something that we must pay close attention to in order to make use of both open source data as well as data that we already have on the ground. And to wrap it all up, artificial intelligence. In 5 years, AI has transformed so much. We have seen exponential growth in AI's capabilities that we did not anticipate that 5 years ago. This has direct implications for space. AI models allow us to process data on the satellite itself. We are able to generate satellite data and process it on satellites, edge computing, to deliver near real-time insights that was not possible before. AI allows us to make predictions using disparate sources of data. So AI overall has massive effects, and we should definitely, when procuring, the defense should certainly look at what AI capabilities do software bring, and do they really genuinely help us derive insights from what the types of data sources that we used to ignore previously. Let me just conclude briefly through 2 or 3 points. As a policy analyst and as a technology analyst, I believe that technology development is not automatic. Just because there are best technologies out there doesn't mean that we need the best technologies. Technology must be driven by our requirements. For the armed forces, it must be derived from the doctrine we have. It must be derived from our force posture. And it must be derived from the objectives that we want to achieve. And for most of the objectives that we want to achieve today, we need not require technologies that the United States is procuring. We do not require the technologies that Europe is procuring. We are able, with the software stack and with the satellite stack that we have today, we can achieve a lot more things than what we thought we could. And we can achieve those objectives. Placing assets in space and choice of architecture is always a policy choice. So therefore, we must think of creative ways in which we can make those trade-offs with sensors and with satellites and ensure that our objectives are still covered. There's no one solution. There's only trade-offs. That's my conclusion. Finally, I just want to make a small point on foreign satellites and international collaboration. International collaboration happens automatically. Space companies in India or elsewhere can't do everything on their own. So we buy satellite data, we buy buses, we buy components from our foreign partners. Most of the time, these are trusted partners in Europe and the United States. And this automatic process of collaboration gives us something that we often forget. It is redundancy. We get redundancy, we get resilience without any cost. So therefore, personally, I believe that sometimes we must acknowledge that having foreign access, having foreign data, or having dependence on foreign assets is sometimes a net positive, because it gives us that resilience. It gives us those capabilities that we might have to pay a higher price for, and we might have to wait longer, 5 years, 10 years to get those capabilities. So sometimes having those foreign collaborations, in fact, is a net positive. With that, I would like to conclude my points, and I would like to thank everyone once again for inviting me here and listening to me.
Thank you, Pranav. Is there any time for questions? Do we? Not really? Okay. But I assure you that the panel here is available. You can ask them questions later on as they meet you. For Dr. Sharma.
Pranav, you said about something with General Pannu. You said 2019, where we have gone wrong. Actually, unfortunately, that was your assessment, but just I want to tell you, those were the building blocks, and you have to take adversary by surprise. So, what is happening, we can't tell, but those were the building blocks the country is taking forward. So, we are not that bad. Whatever you covered, except one thing which I want to tell you, that nano satellite constellation. I want to tell you, you said about the cost. This is not a secret, but we made a satellite with commercial grade components, just 6 crore, launched it. It lived for 2 years with it because it was not having propulsion system. So cost factor has also gone down. In fact, his articles is like a Bible. We keep on reading, but we can keep on acting. But normally we don't put it on in the public what is happening. So it will not come like missiles are launched and all. You will never know that what activities have happened from 2019. Just for your correction. Thank you.
I wanted to give one input. I was DDG of the BSS under DGIS. The data standards, the data protocols, or the metadata required from the industry have already been specified. So by DGIS, by DG Signals under MO. So this is wanted to give for everyone. I am Major General Ajay Sethi. I was earlier in DGIS. I was the one who rolled out the battlefield surveillance system in Northern Command. On that background.
Okay. Since we are geography specific, we want to achieve, we have certain targets for Pune and Western Maharashtra. I'd like you all to end this session with your 1-minute intervention on what can be done with MCCI's efforts, with SRGF's efforts. Starting from
This as a platform for the industry and as the defense sectors to connect. I think this as a platform, it will help us to identify your problem statements, like how do we support your things, how do you are able to support us. Like it was already brought up in the sessions regarding the orders, that is a very, very important critical point where it should be worked out. Policies are there, but the middle path always should be taken. And this is going to be a great interaction for future also. And I think this is a good platform and future also it should happen accordingly. Thank you.
I just want to give this point. I think it may be happening, but you see, we have CME here. So likewise, next to Pune, you have Armored Corps Center, Mech Center, and RT Center. These are the three major arms. So I think the Maratha Chamber of Commerce and because all the problem statement, all the things which we are talking in armed forces are with them. So if you connect, you will find so many problem statements and small things which you can, and some daily use things. Loading an ammunition, we were talking. How will you load ammunition on a gun in the vehicle for mobilization or something like that? So that is one thing you can do. And this is a point which on space, since there's some communication I've been having with Dr. Somna, but he is saying that we are not, IRNSS is ready, but we are not transferring onto IRNSS, NAVIC. You see, so there is a huge scope, because all our devices, whether army or civil, this thing, need to be on IRNSS. They can be on GPS also, but in war and other situation, and IRNSS is more accurate. I've got an atomic clock in my office. It is more accurate than your other clocks.
I brought out exactly, I think the main important thing to understand is that the industry requires to understand the use cases very well. and towards which, like I bought out, we have a few use cases with us. We get use cases from all the 3 services which the officers are working on. And there are times which we can get cheaper solutions to greater problems and in quick time. So I think there we can collaborate together. I'll also be going around and seeing, and also I will request anybody else who's interested and thinks that there's a problem and where we can help, we'll be more than glad to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone has mentioned problem statements. So I'm a policy person in a startup. So people might be wondering, what am I doing? My job is to translate the armed forces problems and tell them to my company. So that is a situation we have reached. So definitely refining, telling them what is the use case is very important. I have some more fundamentals about what can your AI model actually do? What is it that you want to target? How does targeting actually happen? Processes. So those are concepts when startup founders understand the technology can be built to your requirements. The second platform, what the MCCIA can do is to also use the startup knowledge to train the next generation of soldiers to become space warfighters. What we really want is to develop a culture of not just army soldiers going to a space department. We want them to be warfighters. That space culture should be developed where they're able to independently, they may have their roots within their original services, but they must also be independently be able to be as space warfighters, have what I would call the orbital mindset. And this is where startups can genuinely help create that mentality. And this is where there'll be an exchange of knowledge and not just one way. And that is, I find extreme potential as MCCIA for them to help this out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pranav. I'll start with you. Why I'm thanking you is I think we need you in SIA. SIA is the foremost space association of our country, and the DG is here, and he will speak to you later. I think we need somebody who deeply is a analyzer and a critique and is looking at policy, and I think that kind of a support we would need from you. So welcome to SIA for giving us advice on such future policy. You are a civilian, but then, as I said, that when you are talking about a standoff warfare, you are a front runner there in the standoff warfare. Also, Chaitanya, today you were a moderator, but the kind of knowledge that you possess, I do not know if anybody knows that Chaitanya actually wrote the net assessment on the space, defense space. We cannot talk much about it, but the elements of what we need, by when do we need it, the quantum on the scaling, how we need to go and scale it up, all that has been written some time back. And he being a very close associate again with the SIA, and I think more will come out of it. So we formed a defense committee on space. We work on various modules. Basically, the aim of space or cyber or any other thing is to make sure that we are fighting a battle which is more superior than the adversary. We are fighting a battle where we can have a deeper, more accurate, more precise war fighting at less cost. We cannot have going to battle only to lose it. The competent nations first win the war, or win the war in a manner in mind and in preparation before they go to fight it. The incompetent nations start fighting a war and then try to win it. I think the second is never going to happen. So I think what we are doing in this room is we are actually trying to prepare ourselves so that we are competent, that we have already won the war before we start fighting. So therefore, when we talk about the space actually connects the entire gambit of all the frontiers. It connects all the domains of warfare together. And it becomes extremely important for all of us. I went to General Khandare. He's been my friend, philosopher and guide when the space agency was to be raised, and he told me something. He says, go ahead, take a decision, and we will do it together. The next thing we did was we flew to Millet, and we said, where is the human capital? As somebody was talking about, we have to build human capital. Because unless we have human capital, who are we talking to? We can't talk to somebody who has no idea what we are talking about. So we have to start talking to some people who have some idea of what we are talking about so that they can start skilling themselves into that. So Pune has that advantage that I think the stand of warriors can be born here. They understand, they have it in them. Yesterday we went to Amit, we saw he's a stand of warrior, already there in place. If we don't want to utilize them, we will continue to have a contact battle and we will continue to fight the last battle and we may not be able to win it. And I said that if the country is shy of showing a map and we don't want to show that map to everybody the same way, I think there is a lot need to be done and I think we need to prepare for that. The last thing is that when we talk about what we need to do, we need to invest in a few things. I initially was talking about the PME, that is the power. If the energy or the power fails, you can have anything, there are stones. Power, second is materials. If you don't have materials, you can't produce anything. And third is electronics. PME, supported by application and security. Then you have to have the applications working on it and make sure it is secure and it is your own. And if you're going to have the power coming from outside, there will be outages. If you have material coming from outside, we don't know what it is. If we have the engineering designs coming from outside, we don't know what we are talking about. So at the end of the day, the P, M, E, A, and S all got to be indigenous. And to fill the gap, even if we get some strategic partnership with some countries from outside, we actually have a whole lot of Indians running those countries. And when we sit in Pune today and the way what was being flashed today, I think within India, Pune seems to be like a small country like Israel. Actually, people sitting in this room are like a small country. We can empower ourselves to a point that I think we will be a superpower within Pune itself. But look at the size of this nation. How many Punas do we have it? But let's start it here. And I think this is where we need to invest. And from here, we need to take off. Let others follow. And welcome, Anil. We sit in Delhi and do a lot of stuff, but this is our Karam Bhumi. And I'm so happy that today my friend Dr. Anupam Sharma is here. I've been always looking up to him that we will meet and work together. Though in spirit we are together, I think we have to come together and do a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was a very rich discussion on analysis of the current landscape and futuristic perspectives in emerging defense technologies. I invite General Khandare to please felicitate the speakers. General Pannu. Okay, sure, sir. Mr. Pranav Satyanath. Admiral D'Souza. General Brar. General Pannu. Colonel Sunil Fatehpur. And the session moderator, Dr. Chaitanya Giri. And I request all the speakers and panelists for a group picture, please. So you could join us. Thank you so much. So we now break for lunch, and I request it to please keep it a short lunch break. We all gather here by 2:30. That's the target, sir. हो जाएगा सर.